Alrighty, let's go ahead and get this party started, why don't we? Hello everybody and welcome back to our weekly Owl House and Amphibia discussion live stream. I am once again joined, I'm back again, reunited, and it feels so good. Oh good. Oh, hold on, I have to unmute Discord. I'm once again rejoined by my lovely usual guest, reunited, and it feels so good, as I was saying, Tom from Curmudgeon Media. Tom, you want to say hi to the people?
No.
Oh.
No,
okay.
I don't. No,
well,
I'm kidding.
Screw that.
I feel like I technically said hi in the chat.
You did say hi in the chat. Also, who else is in the chat? Sirius is here, welcome. Magical is here. Yes, I'm glad that you could make it here as well. Robin is here, working on exams. Best of luck, my friend. I hope your exams go well. Nebu, sorry if I'm saying this wrong. Nebuleart is here. Hello. Juliana's here. Hello. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. Oh my gosh. So we have a lot to go over today. We have a lot of stuff to talk about, especially with this huge season 2 finale. Before we get into it, I just want to say a little disclaimer first. You all know how much I love this show. You all know how much I gush about the Owl House. It's one of my favorite shows right now, especially that's ongoing. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think what Disney did is really unfair, cutting the show into little pieces and chopping season 3. I did have a couple nitpicks with this finale episode, and I just want to clarify up front that I did not hate the episode. I loved the episode. I especially loved all the big stuff like the collector and everything. But I did have a couple nitpicks in it, so if I am criticizing it, it's not because I'm a hater. It's not because I think that the crew sucks or anything like that. I have massive respect for the crew. They work so hard to put this amazing show together. But just know that nitpicking and stuff like that is the way that I show love. So please don't get the wrong idea when I talk about my critiques and stuff like that. I just want to say that up front, just so no one gets the wrong idea. Also, welcome JP and welcome Hyrule. So glad that you could make it today, and Coaster as well. Yes, it was definitely a crazy episode. Anyway, before we actually get into the finale itself, Tom, since you weren't here with us last week, did you briefly want to talk about what you thought about last week's episode, Clouds on the Horizon? Because I really loved that episode. I thought that episode was amazing. That was the one with the Lumity kiss and Amity's parents, and
I'm literally so glad you instinctively summed up the episode for me, because I was actually stood here struggling to remember what happened.
Yeah, Lumity kiss, Amity's parents, and then the switch at the end were like the big things.
The princess switch.
The princess
on
switch.
on Netflix.
The Disney
I love
Channel
that movie.
Original movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's just like where I'm at in my life right now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh God, I don't know. Talking about the Owl House is really hard to do, because like I always think it's really important to criticize art we love.
Right.
The difficulty is that so much of what I have to criticize about the Owl House is so blatantly and so flagrantly a result of what was done to it behind the scenes.
Right.
And so it kind of it doesn't feel right to swing the gavel.
Yeah, I hear
in that way. It just doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel like if a creator I like makes a creative decision that I just think is off, and I want to talk about that because it's interesting,
right,
that's one thing. But like, I feel like their creative decisions are so purely guided by the fact they've just got so much ground to cover before the end of the season.
Right. There's just so much story.
There's so much story. Clouds on the Horizon was a haze. A lot happened in Clouds on the Horizon. A lot was crammed into that episode. I will be talking about this a little bit later, in more detail, because I think it's a very interesting idea. We need to think. This is why, because I've been pondering in my brain. Why is it that? See, people are saying I'm a little too loud in the chat.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
I've not been super engaged with the Owl House since I think the last episode I really loved was the episode when Luce talks about her dad. I think that's the last time I was really I really enjoyed an episode. And I don't know if it's just like where I'm at in my life at the moment, and that this show just isn't scratching a particular itch for me. Um, Shows and movies are never just shows and movies. There are different kinds of text, right? So there's
Right.
subtext, there is text, there is meta text, and then there is like text beyond the text in a non-metatextual sense. Like meta text implies a certain like deliberation on the part of the creators,
Right, right.
but there is a realm of text beyond the text itself that's entirely in the eye of the beholder, right? Like what something
Definitely.
means to you personally. Um, I I think that a good show, like a really good show, needs all of that to work. Like I'm not saying that every show needs to be meta. I'm not saying that every show needs to be bloody Rick and Morty, but like every show needs text and it needs subtext because without subtext and without a sense of being like really about something that goes beyond the scope of the text, I just don't care. Like I begin to lose my interest, I'll be honest. Fantasy is not a genre that I enjoy very much on its own.
Sure.
And that's fine. Like that's not a complaint. Like there are loads of people who love fantasy and really love to be taken away on a journey and really love to be taken away from the real world and to just live in a different place for a little while. And that's valid. Like that's completely valid. I personally, as an individual, I just need a bit more. Like I just need something to chew on. And the Owl House has not given me anything to chew on. It's just given me like a story and nothing else. And I want more than that. You know,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
just which I think I honestly don't think that's really the creator's fault. I think that is the biggest sacrifice they've had to make
Right, right. I
on
totally
account of the
agree.
fact that they just have to like cover so much ground. Like they just don't have the time to meander. They don't have the time to take the narrative elsewhere.
Yeah.
Because they just have so much raw material to cover, and that's a tremendous shame. And I think um, they say that Dana Terrace has been given almost complete creative control over the three specials that will be
Right.
coming, and I hope that there'll be more to them than you know. It's just like I get to a point I think where we can sit here and we can talk for 3 hours about oh this happened and then this happened. My question is why should I care? Do you know what I mean?
Or no, yeah, for sure, for sure.
And that's just yeah. I enjoyed this episode just fine. I enjoyed Clouds on the Horizon. I think the Lumity Kiss was great. It was beautifully animated.
Yes, for sure.
I believe Tune for Thought talked about that and talked
Yes.
about that animator. Um, Beautiful stuff. I have to say as well, I was completely wrong about Alador. Like I was completely wrong about Alador, like way off the mark.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah.
everyone was saying would come true for Alador came true. And I can't complain about that because I like him. He's a fun little character.
Yeah, yeah.
I really loved, even though the words were not delivered to the ears they were meant to be delivered to. I really loved the bit when he pats Hunter in disguise as Luce on the shoulder and says "You're always welcome." You know, I just liked that. That was
Oh,
really nice.
yeah,
I
that
think
was really sweet. Yeah.
that provides kind of an interesting. I don't know. It kind of provides an interesting train of thought, I suppose. Now that the tables have somewhat been turned,
Yeah.
and Amity shows up at the doorstep of Camilla's house at the end of this episode.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I
I
totally hear what you're saying. Am I feel invested in this story, which is probably what is like driving me through these episodes. But you're right that it does feel like there's stuff that's like kind of missing or like a little bit more that the story maybe was originally trying to
it's
say. But because they just need to get through the story, there's so much happening.
yeah, it's odd. I think it's I King has been a weird one for me these last few episodes. King has felt like he's just kind of there being strung along and he's being bounced back and forth by the plot without any real sense of meaning.
Right, right.
And it every time it keeps cutting back to King, it always feels weird to me because it's like until you get to this episode and they contextualize why he's there in terms of the service to the plot, there's an awful lot of like, why, like, if they're just going to put him off over there, why did they even bring him at all? And then you
Yeah,
get to this episode and you're like, oh, that's why, because the plot needs him to be there.
yeah, and also like just talking about the character arcs, like it just feels like we talked a little bit about this off stream, right? Like at the beginning of the show, and especially throughout season 1 and like through the beginning of season 2, it really felt like the heart of the show was the family of like Luce, Ida, and King, right? Like they really were the core relationship that kind of drove the show forward. And as season 2 has gone on, and as we've had to explore other characters and everything, again, this is not a complaint. This is just my observation. As we've gone through and had to explore other characters, we've kind of lost a little bit of just that core relationship dynamic that you know, you were saying, Tom, that was what really hooked you on the show from the beginning. And I definitely think that it was one of my favorite parts of the show as well. And not to say that all these other character arcs and relationships aren't interesting, but to your point about King's arc, it really does feel like King is on his own arc right now that has like very little to do with like Luce and Ida, even though of course they're there and like supporting him. It's like he's very much kind of on his own on his arc, and that kind of reflects in the story a lot of times where he just like goes off on his own and like sulks for a little bit, right? And that's, yeah, again, there's just like little things that I wish were a little different, but yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. And I do have faith that the 3 specials are going to be amazing. Like I do think they're going to be good. I know that Dana has kind of like tweeted a little bit about it. Like she doesn't want people to like go into season 3 with like this defeatist attitude of like, oh, it's gonna not be what we want. Because also like it is true that limitation can sometimes force creativity as well, right? So I think like Dana even said herself that like because it got cut, they've got the chance to explore things that they may not have if they had that time, right? Which is interesting. So I have faith that the specials are going to be good. But it is a shame that perhaps the original vision had to get compromised quite a bit.
I think that it would be interesting once we've gone through this episode. I think it would be interesting just to like touch base and just think like, okay, season as a whole, what did we like? What did we not like? I want to say like before we go in, because I know obviously there will be people watching this after the fact when it's VOD. Right. And I know that people get really defensive of the stuff they love. And I think that's completely valid. Like, I'm never going to be the person who tells you to not be defensive of something you love. Yeah. Because I'm just not the kind of person to say it's just a show. You know, like, I guess to some extent, yeah, it is just a show. There's always stuff that's more important. But, like, it's not invalid to have, like, a really deep emotional connection to a piece of art. You know? So when I say stuff like the stuff I've said, like, to be completely candid, I'm just not happy at the moment, like just in my life. So that's something that's for the viewer, without getting into too much detail, for the viewer, that's something to just bear in mind. Like depression ruins your ability to enjoy things. Like it just takes the things you love and it makes them boring to you. It just like, it honestly, like watching these last few episodes has been like a haze. It's like, I just watch them. I'm like, oh, those are some events that have happened. And I genuinely think like some of that is because I have actual, I don't know if I want to call them issues, but like things about the show that maybe don't appeal to me quite so much. But I feel like there is a large chunk of it as well that's just like the place I'm at in my life. So
yeah, and that's understandable.
People watching, you know, keep that in mind.
Yes.
Listening to the things that I say, I guess.
Yeah, and we love you and we love your insight, even if you're not like as freaking hyper off the wall bouncing in excitement about it. Like we know that your thoughts are still much wanted here. Okay, I've been ignoring the chat for a bit. I hear you guys talking about the Collector, I Smart Man talking about the Collector being chaotic neutral. Magical had some stuff about the Collector. Reminds me of Discord from the My Little Pony. And then Hyrule also said that the Collector is amazing and terrifying. So yeah, Rooster is also like Collector's an interesting character. So yeah, I have a lot of it. I really love the Collector. I think the Collector is really interesting and exciting, and we'll definitely get to more about the Collector as we get to the end of the episode. But we've been talking for like 15 minutes now, and we haven't even started talking about this episode yet. So why don't we just get into it, Tom? You know, like we said and prefaced all of this, just because we are critiquing and have our thoughts doesn't mean we hate the crew. We have massive, massive respect for Dana and all of the hardworking crew members who put their heart and soul into this show. And like, we still really love the show. Like, I just want to say that once again. We really love the show. We really love the crew. And I am still looking forward to season 3, even if it is going to be a compromise season 3. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna bring up the Berserk Golden Age films, which are not like perfect movies by any means, but they do at least prove that kind of telling a story that, you know, perhaps was meant for television, in a less than orthodox publication format, can be done well and can be done in a way that kind of appeals to people.
Sure.
That's kind of what I'm going into those 3 specials with in mind.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So we start off in the kind of Collector realm, and in this episode, it's actually revealed to us that King's collar has a actual functional use, which was probably the most interesting surprise, quote unquote, to me in this episode. I think that's part of what I was a little disappointed on this episode, was like, it didn't really surprise me that much. And I think I was just expecting that. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel about that. But that was maybe part of a little bit of the disappointment. But this was actually quite an interesting reveal that King's collar is in fact the thing that's hiding him from the Collector. And this also kind of explains why, you know, in the previous little flashback connection scenes that we got between King and the Collector was always like, who's there? Like, I don't see anyone, right? So like, it makes a little bit more sense why they didn't see King in this other realm, because King was actually hidden from the Collector, which is interesting. Yeah, so King is in this in-between realm as he's sleeping again, right? He's like dreaming about it, and then we hear the Collector talking about how he's mad about, you know, basically Bellows lying to him, right? He's like talking like, oh, you better not be fibbing, you pinky swore to me, and he's freaking chilling in his little beast ball, and the Bellows is like, patience, you can trust me, and obviously we find out later that you know, we can't actually trust him, and even King is like rolling his eyes and scoffs, right? And then again, the Collector hears him but doesn't actually see King, and then King wakes up and is with Willow. I really actually enjoyed the scene with Willow and just like them on the boat a lot. Or on the ship, on the airship, because this is just like one of those moments of just like, you know, letting the characters breathe for a little bit, just having that just like calm character moment that maybe more of these got cut due to time and things like that. But I really enjoyed this scene, just like this little moment with these characters, right? You know, Alador trying to fly the ship, Hunter being all anxious, like trying to like backseat drive, right? And Alador just being like, dude, please, like, don't touch my ship. And then, you know, Amity freaking out, and Gus just sort of like quietly sitting and nervous, you know, observing his little magical device thingy. And yeah, Alador, I actually really enjoyed Alador and Hunter arguing. Like, I just felt, again, like this show, the thing I love most about this show is really just how grounded and how real a lot of the characters, especially the side characters, and all feel. And I mentioned this in the, you know, Hunter Gus episode, that you know, having these characters so like fleshed out and so grounded means that you can just throw them into a situation together and their interactions just feel natural, right? They feel like that's how those characters would interact. And that's kind of how I felt with Alador and Hunter here. Like, I never would have expected these two characters to interact, but their interaction like makes so much sense, right? Like, you know, Hunter giving Alador a hard time for building the robots, and Alador giving Hunter a hard time for being the Golden Guard and everything, right? So I really enjoyed this bit a lot.
It kind of makes you wonder if he's not completely sold on Hunter's about face.
Right. Yeah. I think so. And you know, I did also like, again, the same thing with Alador and Hunter being a little unexpected. This little moment with Willow and King was a little unexpected, but I really liked this too, where you know, King has been going through this like reflection arc of figuring out like who he is, what is he good for, how can he like help, right? This is something that King has been struggling with a few episodes here. And he feels like he can't even help Luz, who went off to go fight Bellos on his own, and he's feeling like very useless because he can't help, right? But Willow and her palisman have this very, very cute moment where, you know, they pull open this box, and it's a bunch of like bread and cheese and fruit, and you know, it's very clear that all of them need a break, need a little bit of time to rest and eat some food. They're all quite hangry at the moment. So yeah, I thought this was just like a really sweet moment between all of these characters of just like, hey, like we're all freaking out, we're all bickering, but let's just like focus on what's important here and eat some food. And yeah, Gus and Hunter just have like the cutest friendship too. I'm really happy that their friendship got more developed. And then even Alador, right, just has like a moment of finally kind of accepting Hunter and like letting Hunter drive while he takes a rest too, right? So I just really love these little character moments with these characters. And of course, Alador putting the mittens on Amity and being like, wait, that's why you call me Mittens? That was really cute. I thought that was precious.
Yeah, it conjures a lot of thoughts of of a much smaller Amity
Yeah. Oh, little baby
playing
Amity.
playing in the snow with her papa,
Oh,
making some little mittens for her.
cute, cute. Someone draw that fan art. I want to see it.
I should probably draw that fan art, shouldn't I?
You should. You should. I would
I
love
have the skill. I have the ability. I can do it. I have the technology to rebuild him. I mean, I have the skill to draw this stupid art. Yeah, it's dynamics like these that I really would have liked to have seen more of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Same.
Again, this is not a criticism. I would not put this under the branch of criticism. This is me lamenting Disney being a soulless corporation.
Yes. We all
Um,
hate Disney in this house. All my homies hate Disney.
all my homies hate Disney. But this is stuff I don't want to dwell on too much because I think we can talk about this stuff at the end when we reflect on the season as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. And you know, Willow. Sorry, I'm also reading the chat. Yes, I hear what you're saying, Sirius. That this is part of why you like King's storyline. Um, oh, lots of interesting parallels between the Collector and Spinel,
Spinel,
which is
yeah.
interesting.
I've been thinking about that. Except Spinel,
I
Collector's
love
great, but
Spinel.
Spinel is an S tier character.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
No one's better than Spinel.
um, yes, I agree.
I've seen some talk about like the parallels between this show and neurodivergence, which is something I've talked about before when we were doing our streams for season 2A.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, but again, this is where it comes into the realm of text and subtext. Because if we're saying that like the Coven system alone is enough, I don't think it is. I don't think I don't think it's enough at all because it plays largely until it's brought up for plot stuffs. It plays largely a pretty passive role as an idea
Sorry,
in comparison.
what do you feel like it doesn't do? I think I just
Um,
missed the beginning of your sentence.
well, we would some discussion has been had in the chat about the parallels between this show and neurodivergence as
Oh,
a
I see.
concept.
I see.
And the idea of the Coven system was brought up in relation to that. And it's like I agree, but I personally don't think the Coven system is an idea. It's just a concept, and it's not like it plays a relatively passive role as a plot element. Like the last time we talked about neurodivergence as a theme was way back in season 2A when we were talking about
Ida's curse.
Ida's Cursed, yeah. And like, yeah, I don't know. Again, I think subtext is subtext, but subtext still needs to be fed by the text.
I feel like the Coven system is more a reflection on like the colonial kind of themes that the show's been getting into, like this idea of like this arbitrary system being enforced in order to control people, essentially.
And I agree, yeah. But this is also me speaking as somebody who is neuro. I mean, we're both neurodivergent.
Right, right.
Like it's not like those themes fall on deaf ears for us or that we don't care about them. It's that I
Right.
just like I don't think there's enough text there to feed the subtext for that to really connect with me.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that connecting the coven system to neurodivergency doesn't make too much sense.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I think with ideas like this, like yeah, it's colonial, but like keep in mind colonial oppression applies just as much
That's
to
true.
queerness, for example. You know, that's something you talk about in your Wolfwalkers video, you know.
That's true. That's true.
Um,
Speaking of the Wolfwalkers video, it is currently available right now for supporters on Ko-fi and Patreon. We both worked really, really hard on it, and if you feel like donating even just $1 on Ko-fi, you can watch it early. So just wanted to plug that.
it's really good.
It's really good. It's really, really good.
It's the best thing either of us have ever made.
It's really, really good. I'm really proud of both of our work in that one. You did such a fantastic job editing it. I feel like it's my best script that I've ever done. It'll be up on YouTube next week, but if you want to catch it early, you literally just got to pay $1. It's just $1, and you get to watch it's like what, 40-minute video? Come on.
It's really good.
It's really, really good. Anyway, but yeah, no, I totally hear you on those ideas. And I feel like all that kind of subtext could have been fleshed out a little bit more, right? If they
It's something
had
that
had the time.
I very much imagine would have been fleshed out more because, like, I mean, we now know like the exact point where they heard the news. Like we know that Follies was supposedly that was the episode. That was the point after which that was them trying to like very quickly pick up the pieces after they got the news. So everything before that point, like there was a lot more material that you know that fell under that bracket, I think, in season 2A.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I hear you. So anyway, back to the episode. King and Willow have like this sweet moment, right? Of Willow just being like, you know, there's always an opportunity to help. You just got to kind of find it, which is just one of my favorite things, again, about Willow's character. She's like this incredibly powerful witch that can and will kill you if you cross her, but she's also just like this sweet, wholesome, loyal nugget, right? Like she's just like a really good friend. She's like the mom friend, you know, that like can tell when you're hungry and will tell you to eat and remind you to take your meds and like make sure that you're doing well and taking care of yourself. And yeah, I just really love Willow. I love just like that depth of her character, and I just thought this was a really sweet moment with King. Again, it's just one of those moments of like characters you don't really expect to interact, but when you put them together, it just makes sense.
The mom friend, also known as the Mend.
The Mend, as they call them.
He's gonna mend you.
Yeah, so true. Alrighty, so no intro for us this week, so we get right into the Day of Unity. All the witches are lining up and getting into their formations, whatever, right? And Bellos is there at the top with his creepy little face, and everyone's very excited to see him. And, you know, he starts off his speech, and what does he say? You know,
He is scored in the balls.
yeah, more or less that's what he says.
That's that's the line.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically like bullshit, right? Like he talks about like, oh yeah, blah blah blah, Day of Unity, the power of the Titan will wipe out wild magic, and it's just like his stupid lies, propaganda, right?
Get paid, get laid, Gatorade.
Exactly.
Emperor Bellos, 2021. Or whenever this is set, I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so the coven heads are all lining up. Meanwhile, Ida, Rain, and Lilith are hiding out here. All right, so this is going to be the kind of start of my nitpicking. And again, I apologize in advance, but yeah, I just felt like this whole thing with like their plan and the Day of Unity, like everyone was kind of like speculating on like how this was going to go. And I guess like the thing that kind of disappointed me was that like nothing really happened that like we didn't fully expect to happen, right? Like we knew from the start, like, oh, this plan is like not gonna go well. And it didn't really get stopped in any surprising ways. And maybe like they were surprising for Ida and Rain and like the cats and like the team. But I think like the issue that the show has had, because like we've been following so many different perspectives, and not just centrally focusing on like Luz's perspective, because that's the thing with like shows that kind of focus on one character's perspective versus like shows that kind of follow multiple characters' perspectives, is that when we're following one person's perspective, as that character is like discovering stuff and finding stuff out in the story, it often goes along with the audience finding that stuff out too and discovering it. So it kind of leads to these moments of like, oh my gosh, revelation, like discovery, right? I think about Steven Universe a lot when I think of like a show that follows a single character's perspective and how that kind of lends to the storytelling. But kind of not an issue I have with this show, but just something that kind of comes out of having a show that follows multiple characters' perspectives, is that you don't really have those same kind of like revelations, right? You don't really have those same moments of like, oh, I'm discovering this alongside you, because like we've already seen we've already seen Bellows plot against this. We've already seen like the other side of this. We've already seen like the stuff going on with the other characters. And so like when this plan unfolded and like we were expecting it to not go well because we saw what Bellows was up to, it just wasn't, it was a little anticlimactic for me, you know? It just like there wasn't really anything that surprised me, you know? I don't know.
It's interesting you bring up Steven Universe. Steven Universe is in many ways a character study.
Yes.
Do you think, you know, especially when you get to the sequel series, like Steven Universe Future is Taxi Driver levels of character study. Like that's what, 20 pure episodes of let's take this character and rip them apart and peel back all the layers and examine them with a microscope. And while I wouldn't say the main 5 seasons of the show are a character study in that sense, they're still a character study. Like they still follow this one very specific perspective, and everything is filtered through that very specific way of seeing the world. But like even so, there is like something Steven Universe does very, very, very well is drip feed information that we don't even know is important. Like we don't even know it. You don't even know to know it's important.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
You know, like when you're watching Steven Universe for the first time, it's just like Garnet just has 2 gems.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.
Garnet just has 2 gems. Like the mechanics of how fusion works and the mechanics of how the gems like bodies work are so deliberately like obfuscated at that point in the story.
Yes.
And obviously that's something that they expound upon over the course of the show, but it's like at that point in the story it's just like, great, we're watching this fun show, they got a little superhero team, that's just how it is. Garnet just has 2 gems.
Yeah.
And then of course the big reveal, you feel like an idiot for not noticing it when you rewatch it.
Right.
And you're like, wow, the hints were everywhere.
Right. Like, yeah, exactly. But it's that discovery alongside Steven that makes it so like surprising for the
magical
audience as well, right? Yeah, exactly. So not to say that like this show, not to say Owl House would have been better if we were only following Luz's perspective, right? Like I'm not trying to compare them. I'm not trying to say like one is better than the other in these ways. But that's part of why that's just how I want to explain part of why this was a little disappointing for me, because it just didn't surprise me.
It's honestly kind of hard to know what happened. Like it all happened so quickly.
Yeah, that too.
Like,
that too. It was a little just
and
like, wait, what?
They do the switcheroo, and it's like, okay, well, I guess they knew then, and then you know where it's going to go from there. You know,
exactly.
It's going to I guess they knew, but then it's like, how did they know? We don't really know.
We don't really know. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
People were pointing out how one of the spots on Steve's face was in the wrong place, and that's feeling more and more to me like an animation error. It's a really small animation error. If it is, it's not like a deal breaker. You know, it's interesting people picked up on it. If it is an animation error, that's not a point of criticism for the show, because obviously that stuff happens all the time. It's
right.
Like that's the nature of the game. But like, if it turns out that it is true and that is an illusion, did the illusion Steve? Were they like a mole, or I don't know? But like it happened so quickly. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess they knew. it's this again, this is where it comes back to the thing of like text, subtext, metatext, and context. That's the other word I was looking for, context.
Right.
Where this is just drama. Like, this is just drama.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt about basically everything that happened with Rain and Ida in this episode. Like, I really hate to say that, but...
And again, this is not a... Like, we know why this is just drama.
Right.
We understand what has gone on behind the scenes. The biggest difficulty I find is that this episode is so comparable to True Colors. Like, it's so comparable to True Colors.
Yeah, that too.
That's like one of the biggest issues with the entire last 5 minutes of this episode being almost identical to True Colors, is that it welcomes comparisons to what I think was a more dramatically satisfying episode that had more going on, you know.
Yeah.
True Colors had, again, reveals in it that were like, oh my God, you know, that came out of nowhere. But it wasn't just drama that was just kind of happening. There was a lot of context.
Right, yeah.
There was a lot of context to why that drama mattered. Particularly with Marcy, you know, and it's like, it's not just like this dramatic thing happening. It's this dramatic thing happening that has a fundamental effect on what the core of the show is, which is to do with these central like friendships, these dynamics between people, you know.
Yeah,
and those dynamics between people don't exist in a vacuum, right? And that's where we get into the text beyond the text, because a friendship between characters in a show is directly correlative. It's directly reflective of friendships that we have, and so we bring our own feelings into it, right? So it's more than just drama, it's context.
Yeah.
Subtext, context, text. That's what this episode was kind of missing. It's like it needed the drama to happen. I just didn't have a reason to necessarily care that much.
Yeah.
About the drama, personally.
I feel like I agree with you on that. Yeah, and like the thing that the drama in True Colors did as well, right, is that like it revealed things about the characters, not necessarily just moving the story forward, right? And like that's the thing I think was disappointing with Ida and Rain here, is that like this drama happens between them and it's very emotional, but nothing new is really revealed to us. Like, we've seen Rain be worried about Ida, we've seen Rain trying to protect Ida, we've seen that Ida might be in danger by doing this, and basically all of that happens, and that's it, kind of. So again, like, yeah, I don't want to knock the show, I don't want to compare, I don't want to say one is better than the other in these ways or whatever, but yeah, I do feel like that character driven motivation was somewhat missing from this interaction.
Yeah, and this is more, we could treat all of this more as a criticism of Disney for axing the show prematurely than a criticism of the show itself, because we're all very, very well aware of kind of the impact that's had on it. And it was a perfectly solid finale. Like, I wasn't disengaged at all. I don't know. I just feel like I don't have that much to say about it, really.
Yeah.
It's like things happened, and now we're just like, okay, here's the things that happened.
Yeah. I feel you. We did get one more remander, foreshadowing about Ida popping her hands off and her head off and everything. I did like this moment with Ida and Lilith. I just really love their relationship and how far their relationship has come since the beginning of the show. Their relationship is one of my favorite parts of the show too, just Ida and Lilith. And, you know, they have this moment here where, you know, Lilith's like, if you need help, scream, flap your arms. And, you know, Ida does a little bit of a callback to their spell, you know, with this spell declared, I promise I'll be back, which is really sweet.
That doesn't even rhyme.
It doesn't even rhyme. They're so sweet. I really love them. I love their friendship and their relationship, and then them holding hands and like touching their heads, you know, to each other is a visual that we've seen with these two characters before. So just like a nice little visual callback to their relationship was really
like
nice.
Poetry, so it rhymes.
Yeah. And Hootie too. Yeah, Robin. Yeah, Hootie's really adorable in this little moment too, when he gets a little kiss on the head from Ida. I thought that was sweet. Like, we rarely ever just get these like wholesome moments with Hootie.
Is Hootie more powerful than the Collector?
That is actually a question that I think is worth asking. They're probably Hootie's probably the only comparable character with the collector.
I'd be curious to see I'd be curious to see that interaction if it does happen. If that interaction doesn't happen, that'll genuinely be a super missed opportunity.
Yeah, yeah.
God, I do like this image though with all of them as kids.
Yeah,
like,
this was kind of a nice
because you've got like it kind of makes me wonder if there was a point in time when Ida was actually friends with all of them, like friends with young Odalia, friends with young Darius. I feel like poor Gus Porter has been like really shafted. I feel like I feel like there was more that they wanted to do with Gus and not Gus, sorry,
and his dad.
Gus's dad. What is his name?
I think it's just Mr. Porter. I don't know if we have his.
Let's call him Jeremy.
Okay.
His name's Jeremy. Poor Jeremy Porter. I'm sure he has a name. Got shafted. I feel like they had things they wanted to do.
Yeah.
With him, and that they didn't get to do.
Yeah, but this was a nice visual, right? Just of Lilith and Rain as kids fading into them being adults, looking worried at Ida now. Really, just goes to show how carefree they once were, and how much has changed and how much they've grown, and yeah, I could feel the things that they were doing to get me to like feel the emotions, but it was just hard for me to feel because this was all just sort of, I don't want to say predictable, I don't want to say anticlimactic. Those aren't quite the right words I'm looking for. I need a little bit more time to process like exactly what I liked and what I didn't like about it. So yeah, I don't want anyone to feel like I'm just hating just to hate, but there was just there's stuff about this that just fell flat for me.
Yeah, predictable is a very strong word, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's more like it played out kind of by numbers.
Right, yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, necessarily, in the same way that there's nothing wrong with falling into certain tropes, right? Tropes exist for a reason, the issue is when you do nothing with the trope.
Yes.
And it's just the trope.
Yes.
And I don't even know if I'd necessarily say that about this episode either, but it is just like, it does kind of play out sort of exactly as you sort of
expect it to, or have seen it played out before. Yeah.
I kind of wanted in the end, I kind of wanted Luce to stay behind. That would have been the non-obvious choice to make.
Yeah.
Luce stay behind and the rest of them catapulted into a world they don't understand without even the guidance of
Luce, yeah.
Of Luce, and kind of see how that plays out. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Perry Porter is apparently Gus's dad's name. Thank you, everyone in the chat.
So it's not Archibald.
And I think this was, I heard your comment. I just didn't laugh. And I think this is part of why. Not why this sort of was anticlimactic or felt disappointing to me, because like we knew that Luce was gonna have to face off with Bellows, right? Like we knew that was coming. But like I guess when Bellows disappeared from this place and he was like, all right, I'm gonna go away now and just let this play out, that again just felt very like anticlimactic to me. I was like, oh, he's not even here. Like why can't we just walk away? Like I don't know. Yeah. It was just a little strange to me.
I found that kind of interesting. The idea that he regards them so little that he's not even going to stick around and watch it play out. Like he's just going to kill them and leave. Like he really doesn't care. Which says, if nothing else, that he's a pragmatist, which we know. The only thing that feels strange about it for me is that he's literally been at this for hundreds of years. Like, would he not? Do you not think he'd even want to stick around for like a little bit?
Yeah. Start watching the bodies at the floor or something. I don't know. So he, returns into his little secret lab with the portal door and everything. He pulls out the collector. The collector, is excited, thinking that it's done. And now that the collector has held up his end of the deal, Bellows has to hold up his end of the deal and let the collector free. But of course, Bellows is just like, actually, change of plans. And I do like the collector's line here, like, excuse a what now? That was funny. I do love like the collector. The collector has like all these very human, childlike speech kind of, patterns that they say, like, excuse a what now? And then later they say like, Bellows is a liar, liar, pants on fire, So I just thought that's fun. The collector is really a fun character.
Yeah, it's a lot of that stuff is probably why the Spinel comparisons are being made.
Can we talk about the fact that Bellows was like wearing his stupid human clothes like under his cloak, and he just like takes off his cloak and he's just like wearing this underneath? What a freaking loser.
I feel like he doesn't do that every day, but today was a special day.
What a dork-ass nerd.
Today was a special day, and sometimes you got to get that hustle.
Yeah.
And sometimes getting that hustle involves not having enough time to change.
What a nerd. The way he coordinates his outfits is just so silly. Just very over the top villain to me. I love it. I really enjoyed that a lot. The collector has an interesting line here too, right? Where they say like, oh, you said that you would use the Titan blood to set me free. And Bellows is like, no, I need to use the last of the Titan blood to open the portal, right? So interesting that the collector, I feel like the mystery around the collector is one of the most intriguing things about the show right now.
Wait, hang on. I'm trying to figure something. Okay, so they need Titan blood to set the collector free.
Right.
But they didn't need Titan blood to set the collector free when King did it, or is that because King is just like a big old sack full of Titan blood?
Maybe that's what it is.
Just a big old balloon of Titan blood.
I mean,
with a furry balloon of Titan blood. It's
true. That's not entirely wrong. So yeah, it's weird. It's interesting. Bellows is like, no, I'm not gonna set you free. I've only got enough Titan blood for the portal, right? And he uses the last drop of the Titan blood from the key to activate and turn on the portal. So he wants to go back home, which is interesting. He wants to basically kill all the witches and go back home and be regarded as like a hero, the witch hunter hero that he wanted to always be, right? And it's so interesting to me, how Bellows like cares about his image more than anything else, right? Like him like getting rid of the palisman goop scar on his face. He wants to be presentable. He wants to be human, right? As he returns to his home world. Meanwhile, the collector is screaming, liar, liar, liar. And it's interesting. It's kind of funny to me that all that Bellows has to do is just like cover up the glass with like a piece of cloth, and then the collector disappears. One more nitpick that I have, again, I apologize, but one more nitpick that I have is freaking Kikimora. I feel like her character was so interesting for so long, and then like the Follies at the Coven Day Parade episode happens, and I just stopped caring about Kikimora. Like, she just kind of got reduced to like this joke character, and the show had been doing such a good job of like going the opposite with their joke characters, right? Like all their joke characters ended up being like these very interesting, like three-dimensional grounded characters. And I feel like the opposite happened with Kikimora, where like at first she was like this character that was like, oh man, she's like so obsessed with like her status and her proximity to Bellows, and like it felt like her own paranoia was going to be like her own detriment. And I felt like that was going to be like a really fun kind of like fall from grace arc that we would have gotten to see from Kikimora. And I wonder if that was kind of more what they originally planned for her, because now it just
did not have time.
Yeah, because like now it just feels like she's just kind of a joke, and like let's just throw her in for like plot convenience. So that was my other nitpick of this episode. It's just I feel really disappointed with the way that Kikimora's character kind of has played out in the show. I would have liked to see her go a little bit more feral and like actually lead to her own demise. Like I think that would have been just where that at least is where I thought her arc was going, and so it's kind of disappointing to see that's not where it went. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to harp on it too long.
Yeah, it's because we got so little of Kikimora after a certain point. It's really hard to guess what specifically they might have wanted to do before the cut.
Yeah.
We certainly got more of Kikimora. Like it felt like they were building up some kind of rivalry between. I mean, they were building up a rivalry between Kikimora and Hunter, and I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Hearing Bellows be mean to Kikimora was quite gutting, though. Like, it was just like, oh damn, like he really does not give a single solitary fuck about you at all whatsoever. You know, Kikimura's like, I could be your right hand man or whatever, and Bellows is like, I'd sooner cut off my whole arm. I'm like, damn, he's so savage. And Kiki just being like, I just want to help, and him being like, you can help by, what does he say, go find a hole to wither a way in. I was like, damn, you really had to just, you know, go for the low shot there. Like that was pretty brutal. Had to feel bad for Kikimura in that moment.
Below the belt.
Yeah, below the belt shot, just brutal. Meanwhile, Bellows has taken the collector's, you know, glass thingy, and the collector's like, I taught you magic stronger than anybody's, you know, we made a deal. But Bellows, of course, doesn't actually care and is just like, whatever. That's why I won't release you, because you could teach it to someone else, right? So he just like tosses the thing down into this like pit. And we get that line, "You're a liar, liar, pants on fire," which is fun. The collector is fun. I love the collector. They're a fun entity.
Kind of makes me wonder how powerful a fully grown Titan must be to be able to lock this thing away.
Right.
In
yeah.
another dimension.
Yeah. So that is a reveal we get later, right? That King's dad ended up trapping the collector. So that is interesting. So Bellows finally confronts Luz, right? Glad to see you, my fellow human. And you know, Bellows really doesn't actually want to hurt Luz, because we know that he doesn't want to hurt humans if he can avoid it, right? But of course, Luz fights back. She is really, you know, we've seen her like come a long way with the glyphs and the way that she uses glyphs to fight and everything. But this was a really cool battle. You know, everything with Luz and Bellows were probably my favorite parts of this episode. I thought that this was like just such a really awesome battle between the two of them, with Luz using her glyphs to fight, and Bellows just kind of like brushing off her attacks. Meanwhile, the Day of Unity is commencing. We see Alador and Hunter, their sigils are glowing. The rest of the witches that are at the head, they're all starting to glow. King is getting worried. We find out that Odalia reported the airship as stolen, right? So now they are getting attacked by this rival airship. And can we just talk about this amazing... Gus is a freaking boss, okay? Like, Gus is so powerful. Can we just talk about the fact that he just made the ship just, like, turn into birds and, like, fly towards them? Like, it's really cool. It's a really cool spell that ends up, like, you know, actually giving them an advantage in the fight. Hunter gets knocked down. The fight and action sequences in this episode were all really, really cool. I will say that was probably also my favorite part of the episode, was just all the action and the fight sequences. The action in the show continues to kind of like raise the bar with every battle, and it continued to do so in this episode, and that was really cool.
Yeah. I'm still of the mind that the fight scenes in the outhouse peaked with the Spencer 1 Clawthorn duels in season 1. I feel like they haven't topped those. I really like... That's not to say I don't really like these fight scenes. They're still fun, but I've got a real soft spot for those fight scenes in season 1. They're super dynamic and interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
I just wish that Luz wouldn't like announce her attacks before she does them.
Right.
Like, I hate that. I hate it when characters do that. It's like, don't do that. Come on. You know better than this. Absolutely no attempt at subterfuge.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever. Just like, ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely agree with you, Toon, that Gus has been kicking ass in these episodes. Also, Hunter gets knocked down and, he ends up falling, and then Willow, of course, catches him, which is really a sweet moment, and then we see, Hunter blushing at that, and yeah.
Just like hauling him over her shoulder like it's nothing.
Dude, she could deadlift Hunter, like, with one hand easily. Like, let's be real.
Probably has.
But no, the Huntlow Nation is eating well.
They're
today.
eating well tonight.
They have been fed. Yeah, I this moment with Alador is funny too, right? Like, oh, why did I make them so powerful, so stupid? Again, like he is on his own kind of arc of regret and redemption. So I like that we're just getting these little nuggets of that, even in this moment.
No regrets.
No regrets. So the ship ends up getting taken down, fired at, and they're brought down to the Day of Unity. I just also have to. I saw a post on Twitter the other day, which was like, it was a storyboard artist, and they were like, I'm gonna get this as a tattoo, and it was basically like a storyboard thumbnail with like a bunch of like stick figures, and they were like, fuck crowd shots. So I just have to shout out the animators and the artists who obviously worked very hard on this episode. There's so many crowd shots, which obviously must have taken a lot of time and work to do. So, just kudos to the team. You did a great job. So the eclipse is actually starting, and the spell, gets started to activate. We see Ida's curse start to mess up the spell, and the coven heads that are not in on the plan are like, what the heck is happening? And Darius is like, oh yeah, this is going exactly as we expected, right? So in this moment, everything seems to be going as we expected it would go, and then of course
I gotta say, I love the look on Darius's face when he decides to throw down.
Yeah, for
Darius
sure,
is so fucking cool.
Darius is cool.
Darius is just so fucking cool because it's just like when he's gotta throw down, he's like, right, well, I guess we're doing this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And then we saw, Tara and Darius swap places, which should have given us a huge clue that they were well aware of what was going on. And yeah, it's a little disappointing to me that we didn't find out exactly how they knew what was going to happen. They just had a suspicion. Tara had a suspicion, and then it ended up being the case. It's I know that I don't want to say I'm disappointed because we had these expectations of oh, maybe there was a spy, oh, maybe there was something, right? But it just felt like there had to be something. It felt too easy for Tara to just be like, oh yeah, I suspected it, and I guess I was right. I don't know. That was just one of the few things that kind of bothered me about this, the way that this played out.
Tara can fuck off.
That is true.
That's my intellectual take.
And I do appreciate that, at least these two villains have been kind of established as these awful, we love to hate them kind of villains, with Tara and Adrian here. Adrian's still looking a little worse from Gus's attack, but he uses his illusion magic to reveal the fact that it is in fact Ida, right? Which we saw coming. It's okay, yeah, it's just how we expected it. I do love that Eberwolf though is ready to fucking go. He's also ready to attack, and this kind of battle between the coven heads, again, just the action and the choreography, the fight choreography, was really, really cool in this battle. I really liked this a lot.
Eberwolf, straight up, I mean,
dude, the spiders,
that's a lot of spiders.
This is horrifying. This is a really cool and horrifying attack.
It's valid though.
It's bugs. It's just bugs. And yeah, and Darius just being like, "Oh, for Christ's sake," right? And he's just like, "All right, I guess I'm fighting too." And yeah, this battle with all the Coven heads was just really cool. Getting to see like the way that their powers can be used for combat was really cool. Like, you know, even just like the healing Coven throwing the scalpel, like that's kind of funny. And then like the Oracle person like using the ghosts and whatever.
I like the
Um,
idea that the healing coven leader just like carries around some friggin' scalpels.
right, yeah.
There are more efficient like melee weapons to use than a scalpel. Like just get a knife. Come on.
Right, right.
Why you gotta be this way?
And yeah, and then Rain and Lilith and the rest of the cats just getting like captured by the Abomatons. It was just kind of like, you know, it's nothing we haven't seen coming, I guess, is like why this felt a little flat to me, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reading the chat here.
How dare you read the chat?
Welcome, Lucas. Glad you could join us. And also, Morgan's here too. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, Eberwolf is a scary little gremlin. I do like Eberwolf a lot, actually. Like, the more that we see him, the more I just, like, enjoy him. I love, like, non-speaking characters that still somehow have, like, a lot of personality, and I feel like Eberwolf is definitely one of those characters.
They're feisty little splob.
Yep, yep. And yeah, I think that's that. Theus, you have an interesting point here. You say like, I feel sorry for Tara and Kiki because they believe that they're doing the right thing. And I guess that's another reason for me why the multiple perspectives of this show make these kind of like character reveals feel a little bit frustrating to me. For those of you who weren't here earlier in the stream, I was talking a little bit about how the fact that the Owl House has us following multiple perspectives throughout like different episodes makes it so that when characters like discover something, it's a little anticlimactic for the audience because like we've already known this thing for so long, right? And so like for us as the audience who have known that Bellows is like a liar and pretty much like manipulates everyone, right? And has basically lived up to zero of his promises so far. It just feels very frustrating when we then hear characters like Odalia and Tara and Kiki be like, oh, but you promised us we'll be royalty. You promised us like this and that. And like, meanwhile, us as the audience, like we know how much horse shit that is. And so like, it just feels annoying when the characters finally discover it for themselves because we like knew it already for so long, you know? So like, yeah, while I have the room to be like, oh yeah, Tara and Kiki and all these covens like thought that they were going to become royalty or whatever, it's just frustrating from an audience perspective to like be annoyed at these characters who are just being like so stupid because we've known for so long how Bellows manipulates people and how he has like never lived up to any of his promises. And so yeah, that was just another thing that just made this a little bit more annoying than probably it should have been for me at least.
Yeah, Bellows. I don't know how much I buy Bellows as this like great charismatic leader. Like at times I genuinely wonder how the hell anyone fell for any of this.
Yeah.
Cause like the guy has zero charisma. He like doesn't really treat anyone with any respect at all. Like everyone's treated like complete trash all the time. There's not even like a little bit. Like what is he? We never really get a sense of what it is he's actually rallying them for, and how he does it.
Yeah, like we've seen him be really good at manipulating individual characters, right? Like the way that he did with Lilith, the way that he did with Hunter, right? And those were really interesting, and those were really interesting stories to then discover alongside those characters, right? That Bellows is not the person that they thought he was, right? In season 1 with Lilith and now in season 2 with Hunter. But with these other characters, it's like we never saw what he was promising them, and we never really saw how he did it other than him just being like, the Titan commands it or whatever, right? And yeah, it just feels like we could have maybe gotten a little more with that. I don't know.
Yeah, God, I don't know. I just he
That's true.
seems so like
It's true what you're saying. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's true what you're saying. I smart man that Bellows is more of a brainwasher, like a cult leader. I just wish we got more of that because then it wouldn't leave me as frustrated with these characters being like,
I
God,
see.
how
No,
did we not see it? Like, I don't know.
like I kind of get what you're saying, but I also don't agree. A cult leader gives people what they think they want, right? Cult leaders don't, they're not just assholes who treat everyone like trash all the time.
Right,
There's something much deeper and much more psychological to how cult leaders work, you know, and you know, the most cultish we can say Bellows ever got would be in the context of a character like Lilith, where he has deliberately preyed upon someone who is very, very vulnerable, which cult
right,
leaders typically do. But with characters like Terra Snapdragon, characters who are extremely self-assured, obviously what he's offered them is power, but the extent to which of that power, I just don't understand. Because he hasn't given any of, like, I mean, first of all, how exactly did, I mean, God, I don't know, how did Darius and Rain find out about what the Day of Unity actually was? How did they
right,
find out about it? Do we ever get like a sense of, like, we can assume they did some kind of reconnaissance. Let's just
right.
assume, right? They did some kind of reconnaissance. But what was Bellows actually like promising anybody? Like, he's taken this entire nation, he's hoodwinked this entire nation with this very, very vague idea of what the Day of Unity is. It's like this vague thing of like, we're going to rid the world of wild magic. Okay, okay, maybe a little
Yeah,
more. Like, what is he telling the Coven leaders to make them fight tooth and nail for something that they don't even
yeah,
seem to fully understand? Like, we don't. If we just had a better idea of what it is
right,
he was actually giving them, like we
right.
get like a vague thing of like he was going to make them royalty. Okay, but how though, and to what extent? What does that mean? Like, was he promising them like land? Was he promising them
Yeah, and like
only status? Like, if
without
he was promising
those,
them status, they already have status.
right,
They're Coven
exactly.
leaders.
Yeah, exactly. And like without like that knowledge of like what was he actually like promising them, it just makes the characters feel like they're being stupid, right? Like they're just being dumb. And it's like, come on, why aren't you seeing it already? Which is a little frustrating. And I also
Maybe they are just dumb.
I do want to push back a little bit on this comment that Robin said in the chat, where like they say that Bellows doesn't have charisma. I think Bellows has charisma, but we just haven't seen it because we're following all these other perspectives, right? Like we've been following Luce and Hunter, who now know that he's an evil liar, pants on fire.
Well,
And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like
I I'm
he
gonna
is
make
charismatic, but we just haven't seen
I
that.
I'm gonna side with Roman here. I don't think he's very charismatic at all. I think all the evidence we've seen paint him as kind of an asshole, extremely dismissive, very self-absorbed. Like, I'm gonna make a comparison to a bunch of movies that I flat out hate, and it feels very strange to me that I'm making this comparison, especially as a good comparison. The Star Wars prequel trilogy, they're some of the worst films ever made,
Yeah.
but Ian McDiarmid's performance as Palpatine, he's so charismatic, he's so manipulative. Like, you can completely understand how somebody would get like roped into all of that. Like, he always knows exactly the right thing to say, and exactly who to say it to. Like, he's so good at that. And it's not just that we don't get that from Bellows. It's like we get the opposite of that from Bellows. Like, Bellows
Right.
doesn't even try. He doesn't even care enough to put on the appearance of giving a shit.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Also, yeah, not Aaron Burr, Morgan. You say, you did remind me that Bellows does in fact use like fear as his primary manipulative tool. He had that whole thing with like staging the explosion and talking about like wild magic being evil. But yeah, like he doesn't really
But he
explain.
can't, like, I don't think fear is what he's using on a character like Terra Snapdragon though.
Right, exactly, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. So it's
And
unclear.
I also do agree the Star Wars prequels are better than the Disney sequels, but they're still shitty films. But they are better than they are better than the Disney sequels. But that doesn't make them good films.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I'd
Um,
rather have a broken leg than colon cancer, but a broken leg still sucks.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, that's I Smart Man talks about Philip and Luz, and that's more what I mean, like about charisma. But that's the thing too, right? Like we've only really seen that charisma and like flattery done on an individual basis and not necessarily on like a grand scale like this. So it's unclear how did he manipulate like Tara and Adrian and the other evil coven head leaders with their promises or whatever. So yeah, it just makes it feel like they're being stupid, and that's a little frustrating. Anyway,
he's like a completely, he's what I would just describe as a competent public speaker, but I don't feel like I never feel that we really get a sense of how he's able to mass manipulate entire swathes of people in the scenes of public speaking that we get, especially when we consider that he doesn't actually do a ton of it. Like he doesn't seem to do, as emperor, he doesn't do a lot of actual public appearances.
Yeah, it's a lot more just like the Titan said this, right? And that's supposed to be more his manipulation tactic. But yeah, I do wish we got more of it because, right now it just feels like there's some holes that are a bit unclear. But let's not harp on this too much longer. Let's go ahead and move on. Meanwhile, we cut back. The day of draining spell is starting. Meanwhile, we cut back to Luce and Bellows fighting, and this whole sequence was probably one of my favorite parts of the episode. Philip talking to Luce about like how she's picked up on the glyphs like actually quite quickly. Like you have a strange intuition with these, right? That she's already combining glyphs, and he's talking about how it took him years to figure out. And I love this like move that she's doing too, like with her putting the ice glyphs like on all the pillars and then her like activating them all like at once for her attack. Like I thought that was a really cool attack, and an interesting line that we get from Philip here too, where he says, it's almost like the Titan didn't want me to have that knowledge. So that is an interesting concept that we've actually kind of like briefly talked about a little bit. Like, the fact that like Luce, the Boiling Isles really showed her like the glyphs and everything, right? And how she was able to find them with relative ease. Meanwhile, with Philip, it took him years to do, and it's unclear. It's unclear to me whether that's more to do with the nature of like their characters, like with Philip being like this very narrow-minded, like he very much stuck in his worldview and like not being able to like accept kind of outside perspectives. Meanwhile, Luce is very accepting of outside perspectives and like willing to learn more about this new world and like be in this new place, right? So I'm curious if that's more a testament to their own characters or if it is actually some outside force like the Boiling Isles actually like favoring Luce over Philip or something like that. Like I'm just interested to see how that plays out.
Yeah, and it kind of, something I hadn't really assumed, which changed after this comment, was that the Titan was genuinely a figure he presumed to be a god.
Right.
Like he came to this world and he was like, well, this must be a god, and therefore I must revere it as a god.
Right.
Like I assumed he just whipped that shit out of his ass.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Which, he's still an opportunist and he's still using it. Or was the Titan like genuinely a god that was worshipped before he came there? But I don't know. It's really hard to say. Is there any conflation going on between his idea of the Judeo-Christian god?
Right.
I don't know, but it seems to confirm at least that he does genuinely think it is a god, and he does genuinely believe it exists to some extent.
Yeah.
As a deity.
Yeah, so it's a little unclear what it is exactly. But I guess we'll see in season 3.
Will 3 in season C. That wasn't even a joke. I don't know why I said that.
So Bellows, talks. He's continuing. It's unclear whether he's being honest here, right? Or if he's just trying to further manipulate Luce, where he's like, I don't want to actually hurt you. I don't want to see another human life destroyed by this place. An interesting choice of words there, right? That he says, I don't want to see another human life destroyed by this place. And knowing what we know about what he did with his brother, that's just a very interesting phrasing to me. To say that he really doesn't take the blame you know, if he is talking about his brother here, like he doesn't take the blame of killing his brother. It's the boiling isles, right, that destroyed him. It's magic that destroyed him, which I think is interesting. Luce calling him out on his hypocrisy, right? Like him just being like, and this was a powerful moment too, right? Where Luce is like, after everything you've done, you're barely human yourself. And as she's saying that, the like green goop is like reappearing on his face, which is just like, ugh, that sent chills down my spine. That was really good.
He's just a goopy little guy.
He's just a goop man now.
He's just friggin' goop.
He's not even a man at the end of this. He's literally just goop.
He's a friggin' goop. What's he even gonna do? Like a little tiny bit of bellow scoop slops off at the end.
He's just gonna
What's
be like
bellow
a
scoop gonna do?
slug.
I don't feel like bellow scoop is a threat. I'm not scared of bellow scoop. I'll take him outside. You can cash me outside. I'll take you on bellow scoop.
Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I'll spray some Goo Gone on you, bellow scoop. You don't stand a chance against my ultra powerful cleaning agent. Throw
Get
some bleach on him.
Deodorant and a lighter.
Oh my
Set
gosh!
fire to his ass. Dork ass loser.
Get some like anti-mold spray.
You know what? Like, do you know what genuinely always bothers me? This is something I will say about all shows, all kid shows. It's one of those things you kind of just need to suspend your disbelief on, because you know it's got an awful lot to do with censorship. Right. No one so rarely do they think of using like stealth and a projectile weapon. Right, for sure. Like, Belos is powerful, but if he doesn't see like a crossbow bolt coming, that's still going to go right through his skull and kill him instantly. Right. Like, you know, he can't counter an attack if he doesn't see the attack. Right. No one ever tries. Like, does no one ever try that? Does no one ever try I feel like a projectile weapon, right? And stealth would be really helpful here. Yeah. And they're like, no, we need to like march right up to his damn palace, like poison him or something. Like, come on, guys, get a poison. Like, didn't the Cold War teach you anything about how to kill people? Bit of ricin on the tip of an umbrella on London Bridge. And you know what? They really should take Cold War tactics into account here, because Belos isn't going to know anything about that. He's... Well, yeah, what the fuck is he going to know? He probably doesn't even know what ricin is. Yeah, come on, guys. Ida could probably make a pretty potent poison. Keep up, guys, keep up. Think of this stuff. Ida could make a poison, and Rain could, you know, do their whole thing and slap it in a bottle of Gatorade. Also, Lucas and Robin, your goo jokes make me laugh. Those are really funny. He's just a goofy goober. Anyway, so Philip is about to take out Luce. Can I just? Oh yeah. I'm sorry. I just want to applaud Toon for referring to that one friggin' incel flat earther from that one episode as the Sonic Ronaldo guy, and having it so like I immediately know who he's talking about. Because he's voiced by Sonic the Hedgehog, and he's just like bad Ronaldo. That's funny. Yeah, evil exactly. Ronaldo. Witch hunts died with McCarthyism. Oh, far from it, iSmart Man. Far from it. They didn't. They just call him something else. They just call it something else now. Exactly. So Philip is basically trying to take out Luz at this point. He's like, I'm done with you. He uses the petrification spell, right, that we saw at the end of season 1 with Luz, which is always really scary, because we know that once the spell is like 100%, there's no going back from it, right? So seeing that actually like come up is such a great way to like build that drama and that like tension. I feel it did a great job in season 1, and it did a great job here too. But meanwhile, Luce is friggin' smart. You know, she is really good at like being super resourceful and like using what's available in her surroundings to her advantage. And I love that that's, again, just the tactic that she uses here to fight back Belos, right? And I love this little bit of manipulation that she does first, right? Like her just being like, oh, you realize that you've been gone from the human realm, you're gonna need a guide, right? Because it's so different now. You don't know what's changed. And it's interesting that this does kind of get to Belos a little bit, right? Like, I think we all knew that Belos was not going to necessarily honor this agreement or like take
Luce up on her deal, because like he doesn't really gain anything from having Luce as a guide and from sparing her friends who we know he's been like out to kill for centuries now at this point, right? So I think like him not killing Luce is an interesting testament to how her words, I think, did actually like get through to him, but he never meant to take her up on her word, I think.
It's hard to say. What do you think he would have done if he? What do you think he would have done if he didn't? I mean, I don't think he would have. He might have exploited her for
right,
her guidance, but I don't think he would have spared.
Right, exactly.
Spared anyone.
And we got this line here too, right? Which you were very excited at. But Luce saying like they don't even have witch hunters anymore. Like, what, you want to be the emperor of witch hunters, right? And he says witch hunter general, which is a real thing.
Yeah, it's I don't know if anybody in chat were among the people who were doubting me. But I have had a few like conversations with people on some Our House Facebook groups who called me an idiot for saying that Bellows was inspired by the Witchfinder General, and he literally calls himself the Witch Hunter General. He literally calls himself that.
Yeah,
like he literally uses those words, like Witch Hunter General, Witchfinder General. Are you seriously going to look me in the eye and tell me that's coincidental?
No, it's It's incredibly intentional.
Fools! They doubted me in my massive brain.
They doubted your big brain. Everyone,
my
let's give it up for
brain.
Tom's big brain.
It causes me just the most incredible neck pain hauling around this massive brain all day.
Oh my god!
Every day.
Oh my god!
Knowing everything about everything. It's difficult. It's like life is hard for.
Life is
geniuses.
so difficult for your genius brain. Oh my gosh, you poor thing.
For my genuis.
But no, I feel like this repetition of like, witch hunter general of Bellows being a witch hunter, him being from like, this Puritan colonial era of history, it just really once again grounds it in reality. And it really emphasizes those themes of like colonialism and patriarchy, all that good stuff. All that good stuff. But I also I feel like we've been talking so much about wolfwalkers and our videos out on Patreon and Ko-fi now, which is very exciting. But this when I was watching this, like, it just reminds me of wolfwalkers and like the way that they villainized the Lord Protector in that movie. And
the thing is, they don't really villainize the Lord Protector, because Oliver Cromwell did a bloody good job of villainizing himself.
Right? No, exactly. That's my point too. Right? I feel like this, like, Bellows is the closest to having like an actual colonial figure. Like, we weren't ever gonna have Oliver Cromwell in a Disney, in a Disney property, but I feel like Bellows is like the closest we are ever gonna get to just straight up having like this Puritan, witch hunter general guy, colonial asshole be like one of our villains. And I think that's great. I give it up for Dana for doing that.
He and Ollie McWarcrimes would have been best buds.
Yeah.
They would have been rubbing butts all day long.
You know it. And so Luce, tries to, get Philip to let her go, talking about how, like, oh, your fashion sense is off, like, they're not going to take you seriously, right? And I feel like her words are actually, like, getting through to him to an extent, because otherwise I feel like he would not have, like, let her go if this didn't have at least some effect on him. And the little look down he does at his clothes, too, is actually, like, quite funny. And it does...
worried that he doesn't have the drip.
He doesn't have the freaking drip, and he's right to worry because he looks like a dork ass loser. But I feel like those are the things. I'm really glad that we got this moment though, because I feel like so far, Bellows, his kind of like flaws and weaknesses have been hinted at. But I really like this moment because I think it really highlights some of those weaknesses that he does have, right? Like, he really cares about his appearance and his image. He really cares about like being this person that other people like revere and fear and like look up to in a weird way. I feel like that's not quite the right word I'm looking for, but like he does care about the way he's perceived by other people, right? And I do like that we're getting more of those cracks in Belos's like confidence a little bit.
Turns out that the way to really take him down was to criticize his fashion sense.
She is saying, she said you have no drip and you have no right to be walking around like that, and she is completely correct.
He's got a freaking Amogus on him.
He does. He has a freaking imposter on him.
Friggin' Amogus just hanging around on his chest like a dork-ass loser.
Yeah, yeah.
She should have said that. She said, you're going to get a bunch of really confusing comments from millennials and teens, and
From
it's going to make no sense to you.
Yeah.
They're going to keep calling you sus, and you're not going to know what that means.
Yeah, yeah.
You're going to be really confused. You're just a confused old man who needs to just friggin' calm down and stop being such a friggin' dork-ass fascist for 2 minutes. Is that really too much to ask? I don't think that's too much to ask, personally. I don't think it's too much to ask.
But also, also Lucas has an interesting comment here where they say, pretty sure Belos has simply expected the world to change in every way since he's been gone for centuries. And I actually kind of think it's the opposite of that. I feel like Belos, in his own like stubborn kind of like unwillingness to change his worldview, he probably has not even considered how much like the human realm has changed in his time away, which is how I think Luce is able to get to him.
Well, yeah, I mean that's what's happening in the scene. I don't feel like if he expected the world to change, then none of what Luce is saying to him would have worked.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so Luce is freaking brilliant and crafty as always, right? She gets thrown onto this table and knocked down, and then she like pushes the glove with the sigil, the sigil glove essentially, right? She kind of pushes that behind her and like keeps it close to her, hiding it, and then the petrification spell is going up on her. It's a very tense and very high stakes moment as she's trying to convince Belos to let her go. And yeah, this is just a really tense moment because we're like, Luce is trying to talk her way out of this, and Belos is like literally killing her, and it's just unclear, right, whether or not he's actually going to listen to her and like actually going to let her go. And yeah, I think like he's probably just thinking of like, how can I use this desperation and like use it to my advantage, right? And manipulate this girl to my advantage without actually being interested in striking a real deal with her.
I get the impression he could have killed her a lot quicker.
Yeah.
It was like humoring her.
Yeah, that's how I kind of saw it too. Like, oh, I'll just humor her for a little bit and it'll be fun. And he's
Or maybe he just really
sicko.
wanted to kill her slowly.
Yeah, like a freaking sicko.
Maybe it's Maybelline.
But yeah, this was a really tense moment, especially with the spell coming up on Luce's face and her like tears streaming down. I was just like, oh my god, Luce! Like I knew they weren't gonna kill her, but also it was just a very intense moment.
What would you have done if they did? And it's just like Hunter's the protagonist of the Owl House.
I would have been so shocked. I mean, I would have just been so shocked.
Yeah. That's another thing for me with this episode is that like, God, like when you God, I don't know. I just feel like so much of the tension between now and the next season is relying on the supposed cliffhanger of like, oh my God, who's dead and who isn't. And it's like, they're not going to kill King. King's not dead. Like, I've seen people, like, speculating, oh my God, is King dead? It's like, if Dana Terrace has actually, honestly killed an 8-year-old in a Disney cartoon, then she's hauling around the biggest fucking balls
True.
on the planet. Like, I would shake her hands personally if she killed off King. I would shake her hand, I'd find her, and I'd shake her hand, and I'd ask her how the hell she walks around with nuts that big swinging around between those legs. Like King's not dead. They're not going to kill King. Ida's probably fine. Rain probably fine. Like I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell. I don't think Rain is dead.
Yeah, I don't think Rain is dead.
The ones I'm worried about are Darius and Eberwolf. I feel like
Yeah.
they fit within that bracket where they're expendable enough.
Yeah,
You
like
know,
they're adults. They're fighting the good fight.
like
They've got
they're
emotional
expendable.
ties
They
to our characters. It would hurt if they died. So yeah, I feel like they're probably the most likely. Um, I feel like that's fair, but I feel like the tension of this moment was still there for me anyway.
it's just it's neat to watch how it plays out. It's I like that it very quickly became a battle of wits when she recognized that
Right. Yeah.
she couldn't win the fight through brawn alone.
Exactly. And I love this moment especially. Like I really did enjoy this moment a lot, right? With you know, Lou saying like let's shake on it and Bellows just giving her this like skeptical look of like I'm not going to freaking shake your hand with you hiding your stupid little hand behind your back, right? And like Luce you know, pulls her hand out and like wiggles her fingers in this like very cute moment, right? So, see, I've got nothing, my hands are clean, and then she goes to shake his hand, and I love this moment too because again it just goes to show like how Bellows like he's so blind, right, to anything he like doesn't want to see. I feel like this is kind of like almost a statement about of that, right? Like that's again like Bellows has these like cracks in his facade. He has these like cracks in his abilities that he has these like blind spots to, and I feel like this Lou's taking advantage of that here with like, you know, the glove and being invisible is just really a testament to how friggin' stupid Bellows is. He's a friggin' idiot.
He's a fucking raisin.
Yeah. And yeah, Luce revealing that she had the glove and put the sigil on him was a really, really epic moment. I loved that a lot. That was so, so cool.
I gotta say though, I do enjoy Bellos's unimpressed face. It's fun.
Yeah, yeah. That his the expressions in this episode were all really, really good.
Can I be excused for a moment? I really need the bathroom.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll read the chat in the meantime. The collector is like bending reality so people are like dead and they'll bring them back to life. That's an interesting theory. Da, 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 da. Yeah, Dana doing more straight up horror. I would love that too. Yeah, I agree, Shia. I also don't want to see a show where all the gay people get killed off. I think if season 3, if we think that season 3 has a movie. Well, I know that Dana said something along the lines of the specials, like she has like complete creative control over them, I think. Ida's curse is, you know, kind of flaring up, and her arm is like all gross out, and like Tara, you know, all these coven sigils start going off and everything, right? And like they're all getting drained and sucked up into the sky. And this is just one of those moments where I was just like, yeah, you dumb idiot, finally catching up with the rest of us, when Tara was just kind of like, what is happening? Ray and Bellows is giving us paradise, right? And it's just like, come on, like you've been so obtuse and like so stubborn and like unwilling to see it up until this point. And like, yeah, this is just one of those moments where it's just kind of like, yeah, like you've been just so dumb like at this point. I don't know. But of course everyone, you know, falls. The draining spell is going through it, starting to take everyone out. And yeah, this was beautifully animated for sure. And this was also like a really scary moment too, right? Like, oh gosh, this reminded me of something, but I can't quite place what this reminded me of. But yeah, just like with all the Day of Unity people like wanting to bail out at the last second and like run away and escape, but the Obamaton guards are like holding them in with this force field, right? Like that is pretty chilling. Like that is a scary visual. Yeah, and this was very chilling. I thought this was like very the scariness of the Day of Unity was really set up well in that moment. I would say. Yeah, right. Morgan, Edith starts cussing. I wish. Yeah, so Luz puts the sigil on Bellows, right? And very, very geniusly, it's like, now you have to stop the draining spell, otherwise it's going to take you out too, right? But we know at this point, Bellows no longer has the ability to stop the draining spell. And right now he's just kind of angry and lashing out at the fact that now he's going to also probably get taken out, right? By his own spell. And this kind of like transformation into the Palisman monster that we saw like in Hallow Mind is just really interesting. It really just goes to show how he has like lost his humanity completely, right? Like I feel like this is both a physical manifestation of Belos's true form and also like a reflection of his like inner self too, right? Like he has lost so much of his humanity, as we've seen Luz tell him. You know, it's not just that he's been like sustaining himself to keep himself alive with like the magic and everything that has physically turned him into this beast, but like him being so unwilling to compromise on his ideals, him being so unwilling to like see other perspectives and learn outside of his own narrow worldview. I feel like all of that is also kind of just manifested in this like monster form of his. So I feel like this is both a literal transformation and like an allegorical transformation. Yeah, the Bellows monster is creepy. I totally agree. Magical. Yeah, Gabriel, I would love to see Ida actually cussing in the show. So this was a really cool moment too. Just like that, these perspective shots with King as the ship crashed, right, and they're trying to like get their bearings and like figure out and join the battle. This was like a really, really cool sequence, just like the blur and the action and the camera work. Alador giving Amity the remote and him kind of like staying back to fight all the Abomatons was quite a moving moment. The kids all run off and Gus picks up King and they go, right. And then this was also quite a touching moment too, right, where Hunter goes to Darius and is like, Darius, wake up. And it's like, no, Daddy Darius, not you, anyone but you. Yeah, totally agree. Bellows' monster form is scary. Long-term effect of consuming Palisman. Exactly, Gabriel. Oh, yeah. I actually really hope they don't kill Alador at this point, Lucas. Yeah, I really hope they don't kill Alador. Actually, he might be a character that would sacrifice themselves at this point too, but I really hope that he doesn't, because I don't want Amity to be stuck with just her mom. And like Amity and Willow let Ida go from the Abomatons, and then they decide like they need to go to the head and stop Bellows, right? So I like that we got these moments from King's perspective in that kind of like blurry, still kind of unconscious state, right? King hitting his head and getting that crack on his skull. I wonder if that's going to be important later too, because we know that King and his like little like horn being broken was actually like important to him being able to like remember his memories and things like that. So I wonder if this crack on his head is going to be anything more than just a crack on his head. I wonder if it's going to come back into play in some meaningful way later. Yeah, me too, Gabriel. I want to know what's going on between Alador and Darius and Odalia, because it's clear that they used to be friends, and I'm very curious as to what happened with them later on, and what happened, and if they could potentially rebuild their friendship. I would love to see that too. I wonder if that's one of the things that kind of got cut. So Luz is like really desperate to stop the spell. And meanwhile, Bellos is just sort of fighting, right? Because I think he knows at this point, and we know at this point, that there's no stopping the spell. Luz is like, be careful of the door. She tries to like, you know, use her invisibility and like kind of draw him away from the door, which is quite brilliant, right? This animation was awesome and like really intense. And I really, really love this whole sequence, like with Bellos, like going back and kind of, you know, moving really quickly back and forth and then sneaking up on Luz from behind, right? Like this was just so intense and like so creepy, and like the choreography again is just really, really incredible. And with Bellos saying like, we don't belong here, that's a very interesting insight into his character as well, right? So he still does see Luz as like this human, and he has an interesting view of Luz. I feel, I don't know, it's complicated but interesting to me. Yeah, a love triangle between Alador, Darius, and Odalia, that would be fun. That would actually be kind of fun. All right, so you know, Luz continues to kind of distance herself from Bellos, though, saying like, you know, I'm nothing like you. And this was awesome, right? Bellos lunging for Luz to take him out, but of course Willow is there. I audibly cheered at this moment. I thought this was just such an awesome reveal, the fact that these guys are here to help fight Bellos by her side, and her Amity just being like, you really didn't think we'd follow you? And Gus being like, yeah, girl, get with it. And Luz just being like, you guys are literally the coolest. This was just a great moment. Seeing
That's also the moment that we saw. Oh, by the way, I'm back.
Hello. Oh, hi.
That's also that was one of the promo images they shared where she says that line, you guys are literally the cool, and everybody was expecting it to be like something really macabre.
Yeah, but no, it was like just awesome.
This whole episode ended up being less macabre than I think a lot of people were expecting.
Yeah, I think so. But I don't have any complaints about that.
It's not like, I don't know what people were expecting. It's not like Disney were ever going to do anything like crazy. It's still Disney. It's still a kid show.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the kids join the fight, and it's really awesome. I just really love the fight choreography, and but he's all berserk mad, Luz said. I wonder if that was a reference.
A berserk reference. There's definitely like the Day of Unity with the eclipse and everything is very obviously a reference to the eclipse from Berserk.
Right.
I don't think they ended up using it, but there was another version of the like eclipse. You know, there was a version of that. I don't know what I'd call it. It was like a vision that they all shared. The coven heads of that, like the Titan rising. That they didn't end up using that version, but that thing with the eclipse in the center of the top of the sky, like that whole image is it's highly reminiscent of the eclipse from Berserk. And I remember saying to you at the time, like, they're not gonna like do a genocide like they do in the eclipse in Berserk. And then it turned out I was wrong, and they completely were gonna do a genocide. Like they did in the eclipse from Berserk.
Exactly.
And also Ida loses her arm in the eclipse, just like Guts lost his arm in the eclipse.
Interesting connections there. Also, Tune for Thought, you have a really good comment here about the red behind the Hex Squad, and just I do also, you know, I've talked a lot about how the animation and the expressions were really over the top and you know, really excellent in this episode, but also the color design in this episode was really stellar, and the lighting in this episode was really stellar. So again, just huge kudos to the crew for just doing a stellar job. Also, I love Lumity fighting together. I love seeing these two adorable nugget girlfriends kicking ass together. I just love it. They're great. And even Hunter and Willow get a tiny moment.
Be gay, do crimes, take down a despot.
Yes, exactly. And meanwhile, Gus tells, you know, King to stay back, to stay safe, and then he ends up like falling here. And again, just my one more nitpick, my last nitpick with this episode, I promise. Kikimura being here to explain to King that Bellows can't stop the spell and only the Collector has that power, and King just being like, who is the Collector? And Kiki explaining like, neither witch nor demon, a child from the stars. And she has this line where she's like, Bellows only talked to him when he thought no one was around, but I was always listening, right? And like, this again is just one of those things where I felt like it was like a plot convenience more than anything else. Like Kiki giving us this little bit of exposition here, I felt like wasn't really that necessary or needed, and it just again makes her look like kind of an idiot. Like if she had like actually heard Bellows talking about what his real plans were, then why was she still like so loyal to him? And if we want to say something like, oh, well, she only heard like the parts with the Collector but didn't hear the parts where he was scheming against killing all witches, like I just feel like that's really convenient, you know? And so that was just one of those little things that just felt like a plot convenience to me, and I just didn't think it was necessary to have Kikimura here. Like it could have been like the Collector was like grumbling and talking to himself and being like, stupid Bellows, I hate him, and King just like overheard him and like decided to investigate. Like I feel like that would have worked just as well, and we didn't really like need Kikimura here to like give us this exposition. It just again made her feel like she was just being stupid, and like why was she even doing this if she knew about the Collector? Like yeah, it just didn't work for me. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I remember thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, she overheard him, so she knew?
Exactly, yeah. So I was just kind of like, this didn't need to be here, really. And that was my last nitpick for the episode, but it is what it is.
Well, it's kind of, yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say what's a nitpick and what isn't, especially if it actually affects, if it takes you out of the plot.
Yeah.
If it takes you out of the plot and you're questioning these things, that's a problem. Like, that's a genuine problem.
Yeah, it's more of a critique than a nitpick, for sure. But that was my last like big problem with the episode. Everything else was great from this point on. Gus using his like, you know, the mirror that he stole from the illusion guy. You know, all right, Bella's time to calm down a little bit. Gus just being a powerhouse, awesome badass that he is. And Bellows getting trapped in his like memories, right? And we actually see the paintings that we saw in Hollow Mind of Bellows' brother. So interesting that, you know, those are his worst memories that are being bubbled up for him here, right? That torture him. And as Hunter saves Gus and pulls him out, this was also just like a really creepy, horrible, you know, my stomach did a flip in this moment too, when Bellows like lunges at Hunter, and then he changes his face back to his like person face, and he's like, Hunter, why are you hurting me? I only wanted to help you, right? Like just like this last desperate you know, plea for out of fear for his life, like trying to get Hunter to be on his side, and Hunter finally standing up to him, right, and saying like, you're lying. I
want to redub this bit.
Yeah.
I want to take the imagery from this bit, and I want to redub it with the little interaction between Finn and the Lich.
Oh,
where
yeah.
The Lich is like, aren't you cold, Finn? Step into my well. And his response is, no, I'm not. I've got a sweater on.
Hunter's like, no, I've got a sweater. I'm good. So interestingly enough, you know, Bellows sees Hunter's talisman. He does a zoom in on the Palisman, and he says Caleb. We actually got a confirmation from Dana.
Yeah, from Dana herself. Yeah, because
Dana-
it was mis-subtitled as
Mis-subtitled.
kill him.
Yeah, as kill him, which doesn't make a lot of sense. But what he actually says here is Caleb, and something that was pointed out. I think maybe Morgan or someone else pointed it out in my Discord. But something that was pointed out to me that I had never noticed before is back in the episode with Hunter and Willow, the Flyer Derby episode, when Hunter was introducing himself to Willow and Gus and he came up with the name Caleb, it was actually Flapjack that gave Hunter that name. Like, Hunter was kind of fumbling.
I didn't know that. So
Yeah.
is Flapjack like the... Oh my god, is that what Palisman are? Holy shit, are Palisman like the reignited spirits of the deceased?
So I don't know, right? Like,
Because he looks at it and he says Caleb. It's
Yeah.
like it's not like... God, it's... maybe is the Palisman Caleb's?
Yes,
Palisman?
that's what I was thinking, that the Palisman originally belonged to Caleb, and like when Hunter was like, trying to come up with a name, he was just like and then we heard Flapjack do a little chirp in his ear and he was like, "Oh, Caleb." And then he had to like come up with the rest of the name, right? Like knee whatever like he came up with. But yeah, it is interesting that initially it was Flapjack who gave him the name Caleb. It wasn't just something that Hunter pulled out of his ass. And yeah, I feel like this is more hints, right? Not necessarily like a full confirmation, but more hints that Flapjack originally belonged to Caleb, who was possibly the name of Philip's original brother, whom he created as the clone, as the Grimwalker, right? And then he gave Hunter the name Hunter as his desire for what he wanted his brother to be, right? Wanted him to be his hunting partner. So yeah, really, really interesting hint that we get here about, Hunter's backstory and his true origins and who Bellos' brother was.
They last a long time, those little shits.
Yeah, I guess Palisman don't age because they're made out of wood.
I mean, and there was the belief that what is her name? The Bat Queen belonged to the Titan.
Right, exactly.
I would be such a shitty Palisman. If I were a Palisman, I'd be terrible. I'd be so bad. I'd be like, the name I'd be whispering in his ear would be like Dick Butt or something. I'd be such a dirtbag.
Also, I'm glad that I wasn't alone. Lucas and Toon seem to agree with me on my thoughts on Kiki more in that moment. So I'm glad I wasn't alone in that. Also, Morgan, that's really funny.
I wish we'd seen Kiki more of her.
Good one.
Oh god, it's not. You don't have to flatter me. It's fine.
Also, Morgan, that Gus used trauma magic. It was super effective. That's really funny. Oh, so you think that Flapjack was the Palisman of the previous Golden Guards? I actually don't think so. I feel like Flapjack
specifically Caleb
was specifically only with Caleb and then did not ever reunite with any other witch until Hunter, because we know that that Flapjack was with the Bat Queen and all
for ages,
all her little adopted
and
babbies.
She seems to think that, she seems to express the idea when that episode aired. I remember that I'd have to go back and rewatch it, but I remember I remember the Bat Queen saying something that gave the impression that it had been years and years and years since that little burb had a witch.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. This was a very creepy image, right? King going down, the stairs into this like pit, this bottomless pit area, and we just see all the skulls and the broken mass from the previous Golden Guard. That's like, oh my god, it really reminds you just how messed up Bello is, and the whole thing with the Golden Guards and the Grimwalkers. And this again, Kiki did not need to be here. Kiki really took it out of me for this, because again, like, she had that line in the last episode, right, where she was like, oh, maybe they'll make me Golden Guard. And it's like, do you know anything, or are you just being stupid? And like, her here, like, with all the skulls and the Golden Guard mask, again, makes me question, like, how much does she know and how much is she just being stupid, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, Kiki did not need to be here, in my opinion. That was just something that kind of bothered me. And even with this moment too, with the collector, right? When the collector, this reveal was really cool. With the reveal that King's collar actually keeps him invisible from the collector. But this shot of the collector like looking out and like not seeing King would have been so much cooler if freaking Kiki wasn't there in the background and the collector being like, wait, I know someone's there. It's like, yeah, she's standing right there.
Immediately looking at Kikimora being like, oh, hey.
Like she's standing right there, like the freaking like standing emoji, like with zero expression. Like, like what are you talking about? There is someone right there.
I was like so not really paying attention. I didn't even think of that, but that's so true.
It's like this reveal would have been so much cooler, in my opinion, if Kiki wasn't just like standing there, like literally, like I'm gonna put it in the chat, like.
It's like I don't know why I'm thinking of that. You know that there's that gif of that kid just like standing there like awkwardly looking at the camera.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of.
This is Kikimora in this shot right here. Like she's literally just I put it in the chat. She's literally just standing there. Oh, this was my. I know I said that was my last complaint, but this is my last complaint. Kikimora just didn't need to be in the scene.
I guess you didn't want to see Kiki more of her.
I really didn't. I wanted to see Kiki less of her.
Kiki less. Kiki lesser.
Oh
rather than Kikimora.
This...
Somehow we made that joke funny. How did we do it?
How did we do it? I don't know.
See, that's the rule, right? You need if the joke doesn't land, you just got to do it again.
Do it again and again until it eventually does. Exactly. But this was a cool reveal regardless, right? The fact that King's collar is actually something that's protecting him from the collector specifically, right? Like his collar is like glowing and it makes him invisible to the collector. And then we get another kind of reveal here, right? Where the collector says, "You look like the bully that put me in here. Are you his little Titan baby?" Right? And the fact that he's like, "Oh, I've always wanted to play with you," right? So it's interesting. Your dumb pops hid you, right? So we're getting a lot of like interesting, mysterious backstory here between King's dad, the original Titan, and the collector. What went on there? So it seems to be implying to me, right, that King's dad, who is implied to be the Titan of the Boiling Isles, actually captured the collector and hid him and trapped him away in the beast ball, I guess, maybe, and in the beast ball in the in-between dimensions. And whether or not that's where the collector is originally from is unclear, but we know that he was trapped there. And then King's dad also specifically gave him this collar to hide King from the collector and like hid him away from the collector specifically. So what went on there is a little unclear. And another kind of interesting visual hint that we get to what the backstory with the collector could have been is when King actually pulls out the collector out of this glass moon disc, right? The disc starts cracking. And that's really interesting to me too, because we saw in the Titan Trapper episode when they were all doing their ceremony to connect King with the collector, we saw that the glass disc that they had there was actually cracked in half. So that's really interesting to me. Like that, I feel like that little bit of visual hinting of the storytelling has been really done well with the collector. So the way that I see it, or I guess my predictions with the collector, is that the collector at one point was this physical being in the Boiling Isles and then was trapped or was let out at some point with the glass thing that the Titan Trappers had on their island, and then King's dad recaptured him at some point, and now like this other glass thing is the only way that he's going to be set free again, right? So I like these little hints and these little kind of mysterious clues that they're dropping with us with the collector. And I'm very intrigued to see how it actually all plays out. And I'm curious if we're actually going to get answers to those questions soon.
Well, we're not going to get answers to this question soon because we got to wait for
Well,
the
after the
friggin'
hiatus.
season to air.
Oh, interesting, Lucas. Lucas says that Ida bought King the collar. So if that's the case, that's confusing to me. I wonder where she got it.
Wait, oh, what?
I don't know if
Is
that's
that
true.
right?
I don't know if that's right. Well, someone will have to
Hang
look
on.
back and confirm that for me. But I like this theory from iSmartMan. It was a symbol they found at King's Old Tower that hid him from the collector, and that King carved it himself. Yeah, I don't know. So it's interesting, right? There's a lot of clues being dropped, and it's not really clear how they all tie together. But it's very intriguing, and my interest is piqued, you know, with the collector and the timeline of all these events. I love this. I love this bit a lot. You know, King tries to basically trick the collector into stopping the draining spell, right? And he uses that. At first, he realizes that simply talking to the collector is not going to be effective whatsoever, because the collector is this very playful, childlike person. And I really like King's just brilliant tactic here of him just being like, oh, this game called the Owl House, right? And him being able to kind of like trick the collector that way and be like, oh yeah, it's just so fun. It's a great game. It'll change your life. It's amazing, but we're going to need like a lot of players, right? So we're going to need to stop the draining spell and save everyone. And I love this little bit with King here being like, oh shucks, well, everyone's going to perish in the draining spell, so I guess we can't play the game. Darn shame, isn't it? Ding dang, draining spell. I thought that was just fun.
Why couldn't he just say like PUBG or something instead?
Oh my gosh.
Just be like, look, if you kill everyone, then there'll be nobody to.
We can't play Fortnite if you kill everyone.
Oh God, you know the outside, not the outsider, the collector. The collector is the outsider, just a baby.
Yep.
You know the collector would probably really like Fortnite, and they'd be the annoying bratty 8-year-old who spends all of their parents' money on microtransactions.
Exactly. They're the ones who figured out how to like bypass the parental controls and use their parents' credit card.
They put Ellen Ripley in Fortnite, and if that if that isn't like peak hyper reality right there, like we've entered the hyper real. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Alien. Have you ever seen Alien?
I have not seen Alien, but I've seen many things that have like referenced Alien.
Alien is a masterpiece of horror and sci-fi. And Alien is like one of the most like brilliant, dry, uncomfortable films ever made. In other words, it's like everything that Fortnite isn't. Like it's why did they
I hear you. Anyway, back to Owl House. So the collector says that if you're a Titan, you can let me out, right? And then I can stop the spell. We could play together. And you know, King just being like, "Golly, you do that?" And then this is a very ominous line, right? Where the collector is like, "Wait, you're not just tricking me into doing your chores like Philip, are you?" Which is a little unclear right at this point. We know that King, of course, does want to stop the draining spell to save everybody, and is kind of tricking the collector to do that here. So the ramifications of this manipulation are scary. You know, I feel like this kind of tension has been set up actually quite well. So like I'm very nervous for what's gonna happen with the collector and King.
Which is why you should have just said PUBG.
Exactly.
Which would have bypassed all of this crap.
Right. I also love the return of the pinky swear. I like that. Like that's the thing that lets the collector kind of allow themselves to trust King, right? And this is cool. This is a very kind of just awesome, just again, the creepiness, the scariness is just really well established with the collector here, you know, just saying like, oh no, silly, I don't need your blood, just follow my lead. And it's just like, ugh, so good. So creepy. And yeah, the animation and the lighting and the colors of this entire sequence is so cool too, with King using the pinky swear, right, to pull the collector out. And yeah, we see those cracks show up, right, on the collector's glass circle. So it seems to imply to me that the collector had once come out of his physical form through the glass that the Titan trappers had, and then King's dad maybe like re-trapped him at some point. So how many of these glass thingies exist? Can we find another one and re-trap him again is my question. So yeah, all these little elements with the collector I feel are really well established in creating this intriguing mystery.
Indeed.
Let's see. Anyone say anything interesting in the chat? Yeah, definitely leaving an ambiguous note, and I feel like that's a really cool kind of cliffhanger to leave it, because it's not necessarily like we know they're in immediate danger, but it is just scary because they can be in immediate danger. You know, I think that's what makes this cliffhanger work so well.
Think so?
That's my opinion.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm just not worried about any of it. It's still like maybe this is just the cynic in me, but I know everything's going to turn out fine, basically.
Yes,
I know everything's going to turn out fine.
I agree with that, but I feel like the mystery with the collector is intriguing enough for me, and I feel like the fear comes from the unknown of what the collector wants and is going to do, right? Like that's where the cliffhanger is gripping me. Not so much in that, like, are they going to be fine or are they going to not be fine? Because I think it's fair to say that they'll most likely be fine by the end of this, but what does the collector want? Is the collector actually evil? How are they going to make a deal with the collector? How is all that going to play out? That's really what's got me hooked more than anything else.
Yeah. I think the part that I'm interested in is them being in the human realm now.
Yeah, that too.
And how that's going to play out, because I feel like the big, even though the last 5 minutes of this episode play out like almost identical
right.
to True Colors, to a suspicious degree. The big difference is like Amphibia never really got that dark.
Right.
You know, Amphibia was always a much more lighthearted show by design.
Right.
And when Anne Boone Choi gets home, she's like so excited to be home. And it's like, yeah, I'm finally home. With this, it's just like they rock up at...
yeah, and they're just like, we're all traumatized.
Rock up at her mum's door, and the looks on their faces reminded me of that one image of the crystal gems when they're like exhausted.
Yeah.
Do you know the one I'm talking about?
I think so.
Like,
I think so.
You guys look exhausted. We look awesome.
And they're just like
all. They just look like complete shit. they like Camilla might as well have opened the door to them at that exact moment, because they all look like crap.
Yeah.
They're all like covered in crap and blood.
Yeah.
They're not covered in blood, but they're a little scuffed up.
Yeah, for sure.
And they all look tired and sad.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck.
And yeah, I feel like Jonathan has a good point here. The collector does not have to be evil, but they're powerful and largely careless, and that's potential enough for real damage. And I feel like that's the tension that's being like set up here. Like, not necessarily are they going to live or die, but like, how are they going to mitigate the damage from the collector?
Well, they're a child, you know?
Yeah.
And as Jet Black would have it, there is nothing more pure and cruel than a child.
So true. All right, so the Day of Unity is happening outside. You know, Ida's curse is kind of messing her up, and Rain has this dramatic moment, right? I promised a special kid I'd protect you. I know why a lot of people like this moment, but this, for me, when I was watching this, I was just kind of like, okay, this is happening. This didn't really hit me maybe as hard as it did for some people. I'm just
confused why Ida didn't think of this. Ida's been living in this crumbling body.
And she literally popped off her hand like just before this whole thing went off too. So yeah, it's a little like, come on, Ida, why didn't you think of this? Also, I just want to point out the way that my cat is sitting in my lap right now is very funny. Ah, look at her. Anyway. But yeah, I was just kind of like, okay, this happened. Rain pulls Ida's arm off. There's kind of like a dramatic moment here where
Can we just like appreciate the fact that there are so few contexts where a character can pull another character's arm off and have it be considered an altruistic thing to do?
right, for sure.
Like, Rain coming in and they're just like saving the day by tearing off their lover's arm.
Yeah, right.
Ripping it clean off.
Yeah, so this didn't really hit me that hard. I feel like because again, there was nothing really surprising about it. Nothing was really revealed to us about these characters through this action. It was kind of just like reinforcing what we already knew. Which yeah, I can see the emotion behind it, and I can see the kind of motivation behind it, but it didn't necessarily hit me because it didn't reveal anything for me, I guess, is the best way that I can put it.
I'm not necessarily of the mind that every dramatic scene needs to be a revelation. It's just that here's the best way I could put it. Back when Ida's Requiem had just aired. And people realized, oh my goodness, they can use the actual symbol, the tattoo. They can weaponize it against the beholder, right?
Right.
And so people were suddenly thinking, oh my God, what about Lilith? They could do that to Lilith. And I think it was a Mooring Mark comic, which was just like them trying to do that to Lilith, and Lilith just, now that Lilith has the curse, just like popping her arm off and just like really blasé, just popping the arm off and just throwing it away, just being like, well, you can't do that to me now.
Right.
When the fandom is like en masse kind of having these thoughts and thinking of these things, I think that's when the writing needs to be a cut above.
Right, exactly.
Do what the fandom isn't thinking of.
Right.
And to be honest, like, for the most part, the Owl House has been really, really good at doing this.
Yeah, I think so too. For the most part,
really,
it has been really
good at doing this.
Like with V, that was like a huge one.
Huge one, yeah. The Owl House is still a great show. My favorite thing about this episode is that Collector Loose didn't happen. I would have hated that. Like,
yeah.
if that had happened, I would have been complaining from start to finish of this stream. I would not shut up about it because I don't like that. I just don't like it. Like, it was kind of played out when Bipper happened. I don't like the villain possessing the hero. That's been done forever, since always, and it's not that fun. It's not that interesting. It worked in Gravity Falls because it was a one-off episode. It was a goofy fun time. To be honest, I didn't like Darcy that much. I'm gonna be real. I didn't dislike Darcy. I think they did something else with it that was more than just a possession. I think the idea of it being, like the collective, the idea of it actually being forced, it not being like a deal, kind of added another dimension to it. But I wasn't like thrilled about Darcy as a villain.
Yeah, I think
if they'd done Collector Lose, I would have been so pissed because it's so trite and it's so.
I think I'm not like happy or disappointed or anything about Collector Lose, but I do like the way that this is going. I'll put it.
I just like that they didn't do it.
Yeah.
I like to think they were. I'm pretty sure they probably would have looked at it and been like, no, that's the obvious thing to do. Let's not do that.
Yeah.
I think they're smart enough writers. I think all of the issues with the writing isn't really because they're bad writers. It's because they've been given so little time.
Exactly. I completely agree with that.
They're actually great writers. It's just that they've been put under constraints that just aren't allowing them to do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So the Collector pops out of the mirror, and it's a really cool sequence. I just really love the animation there, and the colors are also good. Meanwhile,
and the music, the Collector's theme is really cool.
That too, yeah. The music is awesome. The music in this episode in general was really, really good. Actually, the end music was really awesome too. So the kids are all fighting Belos, right? And just as we see the scythe of Belos's goop hand come down to take out Luz. I love that she's also like holding Amity, protecting Amity here, right? Like that's just her first instinct is just protect her girlfriend. So sweet. And then of course it is stopped and we get the reveal of the Collector. And can I just say, along the lines of us talking about like how we're glad that Luz didn't get possessed by the Collector. I just want to say I feel very, very vindicated in saying that I did not think that this character looked like Luz. Everyone kept pointing to Dana's like promo art, the little like half portrait that she did of the Collector, and saying like, "Oh, Luz gets possessed by the Collector" or something, right? Because it kind of looked like Luz or whatever. But in my eyes, I saw that drawing and I was like, "This does not look like Luz."
It doesn't look like them, yeah.
Like Luz's eyes are round for one thing, and the Collector's eyes are like more trapezoidal, so it's a different shape. Luz has like a round nose.
Keep in mind though, we have just spent like several months deep diving into Wolfwalkers. And deep diving into Wolfwalkers necessitates analyzing the shape language. Right, because the shape language in Wolfwalkers is so important to that film.
Definitely.
From like start till finish. And it's something that the creators talk about a lot. And so you learn a lot about shape language, right? And you learn stuff that the average viewer doesn't really pay attention to.
Right.
But I completely agree with you. The shape language of Luz's face is so different.
Yeah. So
like the eyes, like if you were to take that drawing of the Collector and you were to like squint at it, then sure, maybe. Like if you're just looking at it and you really have to reduce it to vagaries.
Right.
To say that it looks like Luz. It really doesn't.
Yeah. So when I saw that drawing, I didn't think it looked like Luz. The eyes and the nose were all different shapes, and the eyebrows were also a completely different shape. And so like when people were like, "Oh, it's Luz, it kind of looks like Luz," I was just kind of like, I don't think so, but if you want to draw your cool fan art, more power to you. I would love to see it, but I don't think the Collector looks like Luz. And I feel very vindicated that we finally got this reveal of the Collector's physical form, and it is in fact not connected to Luz at all. So take that, everyone who thought that it
don't
looked
you
like
mean
Luz and doubted
not,
me.
Not connected to Luz? Can we pretend that I said something really smart and funny?
Oh, good one, Tom. LOL.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yep. But yeah, totally agree with you though, Gabriel, that the Collector's theme slaps. The music was awesome. I love the music in this bit. Really just added to like that uncertainty, right? Like they're very chaotic, childlike, but like we don't know what's going to happen. And that's kind of where the fear, I think, comes from.
They're adorable and I love them. I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm too overwhelmed by how adorable they are.
They're really freaking cute. I really love the design a lot.
There's such a little nugget. I want them to be good so bad.
I know. Me too. Bellos is like, "Oh, you're free, just as promised," right? And of course, the Collector is not an idiot, at least when it comes to this. So that's also kind of intriguing to me, right? Like, how smart is the Collector really? Like, does the Collector know that King is like kind of tricking him or whatever, and is he just kind of playing along? Like, it's really kind of, it's unclear, right? Like how much the Collector knows. How smart is the Collector? Because they have this very childlike demeanor, but they are also a god of some kind. So like, are they actually stupid, or like, yeah, that's unclear too, right? So I feel like that's another point that kind of increases that tension. But yeah, I love them. They're really cute. I'm not angry though. Say you want to play tag. And I love how they established just like how powerful the Collector is, right? Like in these like really two fell swoops, right? First of all, like taking out Philip with just like one little boop. I'm it. Boop. You're dead. You're goop. You're splat. That was awesome. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And just like getting the kids' reactions too was just like, jaws on the floor, just like, holy crap. Like, I cannot believe what I just witnessed. And especially like from
so
Hunter
funny.
too, right? Yeah, it's funny. It's horrifying and funny. And like, poor Hunter just saw his freaking like dad figure get splatted against the wall. Like, it's crazy.
Do you know what it made me think of?
Yeah.
It made me think of with their little interaction and then him just like flicking him into the wall like a little fucking bug.
Yeah.
It made me think of oh, it's so sad that Steve Jobs died of ligma. And then Bella says, who the fuck is Steve Jobs? Ligma balls. Bam.
Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, exactly. The question isn't just does he know, but does he care? Yeah, that's another question, right? So we don't know. And yeah, you know, he turns to the kids and is like, "Oh, are you guys slow too? Do you need a head start?" And it's like, "Oh gosh, please don't splat these kids against the wall." And then of course King comes in, right? And he's like, playing along with that ruse, like, "Hey, collector, buddy," and then the collector's being like, "King," and yeah, again, like the extent of like their friendship and how much the collector actually trusts King. Now that we know that King's father is the one that trapped the collector, right? It's very scary. It's very scary to know to speculate on like what is the collector's actual thoughts and motivations and desires. Like, ugh, it's all unknown, and that's what makes it scary. King, King just being like, "You gotta help my friends, all the ones that are outside, otherwise we won't get to play Owl House. You know, that game that we love to play." And I love that, you know, he like, you know, turns to the kids to kind of get them to play along as well. And I freaking love this face that Amity is making here as she's like looking in horror at the collector. And Luce just like trying to play along, right? Being like, "Oh yeah, the Owl House. Gosh, I love that game so much. It's so much fun," right? And Amity's just like worried expression, and then her saying like, "Oh yeah, the memories last a lifetime." And this moment with Willow and Gus reminded me of in the previous episode too, right? When they were like, "Oh, I'm an asset gal myself," right? Just being like, "Yeah, we love assets," and them in this episode just being like, "Oh yeah, I play it every day. I play it every hour. I love this game so much." And Hunter's little squeak of fear here.
I love that the Hunter squeak killed me.
It's so good. It's so good. I loved it so much.
Oh, I lost my whole shit.
It was so good. It was so good. Shout out to Zena Robinson once again for just fucking killing it. Great job. 10 out of 10. And then King saying like, "I'll explain the rules later, but remember we need lots of players first." And this was such an awesome moment. It was so awesome because, you know, we've been like, this is one of those moments where it was anticlimactic, but like in an awesome way, right? Like it was anticlimactic in a surprising and like satisfying way rather than just like a, "Oh, okay, that happened" kind of way. Because like we've been building to the Day of Unity like for the whole show up to this point, right? The whole 2 seasons has been about this big threat. We've been planning and strategizing against this one big threat for the entire 2 seasons of the show so far. And for the collector to just come by and just kind of do a little quick peek around and see like, "Oh, okay, this is happening," and it's like, "Okay, I'll fix this," and just like a freaking iPad game, they just swipe the moon out of the air, boop, and it's over, and everyone's fine. And I really loved that. Like that was such a, again, just added to that uncertainty and that terror of like, "Oh God, this child is so powerful." Like they were able to just like sideswipe the biggest threat of the series so far. Like it was friggin' nothing. And what does that mean for us now? You know, I feel like the way they established that was just really well done. And this was like anticlimactic in like the best way. It was really good at establishing just like how much of a threat the collector really is, or really can be, rather, you know.
I'll tell you what it means.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it means.
Tell us what it means.
Are you listening?
I'm listening.
Are you sure? Your
Yes.
ears wide open?
They are all ears for you.
Because I'll tell you what it means.
What does it mean?
I'll tell you what it means.
What does it mean?
It means that the collector, they're a pro gamer.
You know what? That's actually so true.
They're not just a pro gamer, they're a speedrunner. They're doing those like cheesy speedrun strats. Like that's how they that's how they moved to the moon. They actually did an exploit you do.
Yeah,
where
they
you
were
go
able to
outside the
glitch.
bounds of exactly. You got it.
Yeah.
They're not just a pro gamer, they're a speedrunner, which
Oh
is
gosh, that's a real threat.
which is a real threat. Like, you know, I'm not gonna lie, Luce, her dodge rolls are looking pretty slack.
That's what she's got to do in the human realm. She's just got to practice her her dodge rolls and
That's what the 3 specials are going to be. They're going to be like
optimizing her iframes. Yeah, exactly.
They're all 44 minutes long. Like the first 2 are going to be 44 full minutes each of just loose dodge rolling around her garden.
Right.
Literally just a looping GIF of 44 uncut minutes.
Yeah.
And then the third one will be 40 minutes of loose dodge rolling around her garden. And then she'll stand up and be like, right, I'm ready. And then she'll use a speedrun strat to actually enter, to go back to the Boiling Isles.
Yeah.
You know how like in some games when you do speedrun strats, you like enter areas of the game you're not supposed to be able to access
exactly.
yet.
Yeah.
She'll do that. She'll use a speedrun strat, and then she'll show up, and she will just like dodge roll her way to victory, and it will be. And I'm telling you, this is exactly what's going to happen. I've seen the scripts. Me and Dana, we're real pals.
Damn, I can't believe you've leaked season 3 to all of us right here, right now. Exclusive stuff, everyone. Exclusive stuff.
The Collector is a pro gamer, confirmed.
Yes, definitely. All right, so the Collector, is very easily stopping the Day of Unity. Just boop, the moon moves out of the way, and it's obviously very, very scary to think that this entity is so powerful and can just sort of do this stuff on a whim. I really love that moment a lot. I thought it was so awesome. And then
I just love this little nugget. I just love
chaotic gremlin child. Yeah, I love them. Yeah, and then they say, if we gonna play Owl House, we are gonna need an Owl House. I thought that was just such an epic moment, and them just like leaping into the air and just like breaking down the building and like spinning around, and their silly little like jester pajamas are so funny, and I really love the design of this character. Like they did a really amazing job at making this like chaotic little adorable nugget child who can and will destroy the universe on a whim. Like it's just, I love it. It's so fun. And something I really love, especially about the Collector, I know that there's been a couple of comparisons between the Collector and Bill Cipher. And one thing that I actually really appreciate about the Collector that I think makes it work so well for shows like the Owl House is that, Bill Cipher, they kind of had to kind of like not censor him. I feel like that's not the right word, because obviously they did like play a lot with how horrifying he is. Hold on, sorry. They played a lot with how horrifying he really is, but they I feel like they had to hold themselves back a little bit because of the fact that it was a kid show, right? And Bill is like this old powerful, all-seeing, all-knowing entity, all-powerful, and like it just questions could arise of like could he have done worse or something like that. But I feel like something that's really brilliant with the Collector is that like even though they're all powerful and all chaotic, I feel like the worry about like, oh, we need to keep them appropriate for a kids show is not necessarily the same as it was with Bill, because like them actually being a kid just like makes whatever they want to do and have it stay in the realm of a kids show like a little more believable. Am I making sense? Like, does that make sense at all?
No, I completely understand.
It just works. I thought it was smart.
Wanting necessarily to disembowel someone.
Exactly. Whereas with Bill, him like not disemboweling someone is kind of like, come on, guy, why aren't you doing that? It's because it's a kid's show, right? But with the Collector, like anything that they are gonna want is gonna fit.
Is that what you'd say if you were in Gravity Falls? You'd be like, honestly, Bill, I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah,
this
like
whole Weird Mageddon, like I haven't seen you disembowel someone.
Exactly. Why aren't there more like guts strewn all over the place?
That's weak. Man, that's friggin' weak.
Exactly.
That's friggin' lazy.
But I actually think that not Aaron Burr has solved the mystery here, and I think the Collector is actually going to be revealed to be Bob Hoskins later in season 3. I think they even look like Bob Hoskins. They even look the same, yeah.
If you squint your eyes really hard. Like, if you squint your eyes
oh my gosh,
so
what
hard,
if the Collector possesses Bob Hoskins in season 3?
That's I think we're onto something.
I think we're
we
onto
figured
something
it
here,
out.
guys. I think we're onto something.
think
They
we
do
figured
kind
it
of look
out.
the same if you squint your eyes.
It's if you squint your eyes so hard that you actually close them,
Yeah.
they look exactly the same.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we're being mean now. We're just being mean.
The collector reminds me a lot of Shea Gorath from the Elder Scrolls,
Oh.
the Daedric Prince of Madness, and they're just as fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally chaotic neutral. I feel like they'd be best friends. I bet they have tea parties on weekends.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Well, cheese for everyone.
Yeah.
You won't know what that means, but there'll be people in the chat who do.
Yep, yep.
Cringe again.
Yeah, Bill shuffling the holes in that guy's face is like the closest thing that we got to like true horror on that show.
That was so funny.
It was hilarious. It was horrifying and shocking and hilarious. So Willow, you know, they all kind of run for the door. They say like, we need to get out of here, right? And so they head for the portal door that's still open, right? I think there's a way out.
I kind of loved that. I loved that they literally had nowhere else they could go.
Yeah, right. And of course, Luz has this like kind of conflict, right, where she doesn't want to leave. She doesn't want to leave Ida and everyone else, especially with this chaotic collector who's now come into play, right? But I really love this moment with Amity where she just, you know, she just holds Luz's arm and with tears in her eyes just says, please. And I love how that is what gets Luz to go, you know, just that moment from Amity.
Day of Unity, more like Day of Illumity.
Good one.
Sometimes I say things that make me hate myself.
And so they run for the door. The bellows goop is all over the floor and the wall, right? And meanwhile, a little droplet of it falls onto Hunter's shoulder in this slow-mo dramatic moment. So obviously this is going to come into play later in season 3. How exactly, we don't really know. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. The bellows goop.
I hope that they're just like an absolute joke. I really do. Like Bellows has been like so intimidating and formidable up to this point. I would love if Goop Bellows was just like utterly pathetic. Just fucking useless. Just like an absolute villain of the week kind of villain. Like trying to foil their plans and failing. I would genuinely like that.
Like a Scooby-Doo villain.
Like it's just being shit. Just being like absolutely shit.
Yeah. Yeah, so they head for the door. It kind of flickers a little bit, right? And it flickers into the rain that we see from the human realm. And I love that it's Gus that says this line too, right? Because we know that Gus is a human expert. So he says, you know, it's human rain, it's okay, right? So they go through. Amity is hesitant because she wants Luz to come through too, but Luz is wanting to stand her ground and to keep everyone that she loves safe. She wants all of the gang to go through the door so that they can escape and be safe, but she wants to stay behind so that she can go find Ida and stay with King, you know, and help them in this new threat, right? Facing this new threat. And I really love this moment. It was I feel like the drama in this moment was a lot more I don't know.
Affecting.
It just hit me harder than the drama previously.
I just want to quickly address a comment in chat because it occurs to me that some people might not have watched the episode all the way to the end. Some people might have bailed when the credits started rolling. Not Aaron Burr saying it could be a representation of Bellows losing his grip on Hunter, but it more likely means Bellows Scoop is on Earth. Bellows Scoop is on Earth. If you didn't watch, if some of you didn't watch all the way to literally the very end of the episode, at the very end of the credits, we see the goop close the door to the shack. It falls onto the handle and it closes the door, presumably to go off and I don't know, be very confused by modern culture.
Yeah, definitely.
Toon and I were laughing about the prospect of somebody trying to explain to Bellows what Kids Bop is.
Oh my god, that's hilarious. We need that scene. Smart Man, I like that theory. I suspect that the bellows scoop will be the key to getting back to the boiling isles. Oh my gosh.
The biling oils.
The biling oils. But yeah, no, I feel like that's a good theory. I feel like that is definitely going to come into play somehow. So, Luz says that they should go, and she wants to hold the portal together, and she'll find their way back to them. And of course, we get now a dramatic moment with King, very similar, right, to the moment that we got with Ida at the end of. Gosh, was it the end of season one where Ida was like, Luz, I'm just glad that you were in my life, right? This reminded me of that moment. It was a similar parallel to me where
Yeah.
King is getting dragged back to the collector, and Luz is trying desperately to stay there and to be with King and to be there by his side. But King says, sorry, not this time. And then he says, like, I'm so glad that you got to be my big sister, and like that. Oh my god, that's when I started tearing up, because like I really do love King and Ida and Luz's like familial relationship. Like I said, I feel like that's been one of the hearts of the show that has like kept me so invested. And yeah, this moment I was definitely tearing up. I was like, oh no, King, no, you guys are family, don't let go.
He'll be fine.
I know. I just love these characters, and I love them together, and seeing them apart is
He's
hard.
probably just gonna get the collector engaged with some LARPing for a bit until they get back.
Yeah.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. They're gonna start the absolute sickest D&D campaign with the
Oh my
collector. I mean, the
gosh.
collector can make their D&D campaign
Just
reality.
real. Yeah.
So they're probably gonna have a great time. That's gonna be the big reveal. They'll get back and they'll be like, no, we've been having a great time. The collector kind of rocks.
Yeah.
They're absolutely the best to D&D with.
Yeah. Oh, also too, you have a good point here where King throughout the entire season 2, right? We've seen King and his kind of hesitancy to let go of Luz and to accept the fact that Luz is going to have to go back to the human realm. So this is actually a really powerful moment for King, more powerful than I initially considered, because he's actually overcoming his struggle here, right? Of wanting to let go of Luz, or not wanting to let go of Luz rather, and doing it for the sake of her safety. Really kind of shows how far he's come.
He'll be fine.
He'll be fine. They'll be fine. And I also really love this moment too, with the door closing and Luz like desperately opening and closing it again, trying to get back, right? Like, ugh, that moment definitely hit me for sure, especially with the music and everything. It was really, really emotional. And then just Luz just turning back to the gang, and Gus like tearing up and falling to the ground. It's just, God, this moment definitely hit really hard, because especially with Gus, right? Like, he's still a baby. He's like the youngest out of all of them. And like just his fear of like being away from home, I can imagine. And yeah, these kids have been just through so much. And yes, it's definitely it's definitely very similar to the Owl House, or sorry, not the Owl House, Amphibia.
It's very similar to the Owl House. It's almost like it could literally could be the Owl House.
Shut up. No, it's very similar to Amphibia, but I feel like for some people, maybe like the shock of, oh my gosh, now they're in the human realm, which wasn't necessarily seen that often in these kind of like, isekai genre stories. But of course, Amphibia and Owl House seem to be kind of pushing the bounds of what's possible with these kind of stories. I feel like it's a little unfortunate that Amphibia kind of did it first, so it was a little less like shocking when Owl House did it. But I feel like it's still different enough that it's going to be still interesting to me to see how it plays out.
You keep saying Owl House when you mean Amphibia.
Sorry, I'm sorry. My brain is as goopy as Bellows today, and I'm not on my best.
This kind of drama is very it's written for a particular kind of audience. It's written for kids. This is ultimately a kid's show. Like, I don't expect. The thing is, when I'm watching something like Steven Universe, and there are aspects of Steven Universe that transcend the age group to which it was at one time primarily aimed towards. particularly when you get to like Steven Universe Future, and it's like, holy shit, this is all just like they really just wanted to use this series as an opportunity to unpack some ideas that are really relevant to anyone.
Yeah.
Realistically, this kind of drama on its own as just drama, it didn't affect me at all, and it's not meant to. Like, that's not a complaint. I'm a grown ass man. This is a kid show. I can have fun with it. I can enjoy the visuals, and there are some kind of moments in it that really get me. This was a very dramatic episode. Like the very much the focus of it was the drama. And the drama on its own just wasn't enough to kind of get. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I hear what you're saying. I definitely hear what you're saying. So Camilla is here, right? And yes, Toon. I definitely thought of you when this scene came up because I know how much you love Camilla and V, and how excited you must have been to see this bit.
I kind of want to respond to Ice Smartman's comment about it doesn't matter who the target audience is, good writing is still good writing. I completely agree.
Yeah. But
you can't pretend like we're fooling ourselves if we don't think that things aren't going to affect you differently depending on your age.
Exactly.
Like we like, let's not, that would be false. That would be completely wrong to say that. Like, the writing for kids can transcend that, and often has. Like, there are loads of moments in the Owl House that have done just that.
Exactly.
But this kind of story, if the plot on its own, this kind of plot, it's just not. It's not meant to move someone like me in the same way that it is its target audience. That's not a failing on the show's part. Like, the show's written for kids, and that's fine. This is going to be, there are loads of kids who are going to be watching this who are going to be absolutely sucked in. And I'm not. If you're an adult watching this and you're sucked in, that's fine too. Like, it's, at the end of the day, it's going to affect different people differently. I've consumed lots of stories.
Right. Exactly.
That are just.
That are just different. Yeah.
I've consumed so much media in my life. Yeah. I've easily watched more than 1,000 films.
Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap this up because we're also like getting on to close to 3 hours at this point, and I don't know how much we want to talk about Amphibia today. But let's go ahead and try to wrap this up. The Easter egg was fun. The little Anne Easter egg was fun. But I don't think we're supposed to read into it any more than just an Easter egg.
Can you show people the Morbius thing?
Oh my god, yeah, I'll show them. Oh my gosh.
Because that really made me laugh.
Oh my gosh. Someone edited, God, you said so many puppos.
You don't even, I found so many amazing puppos. You've got like such a treat in store for you when the stream is over. There's just an exceptional selection of puppos. Like, you don't even know.
There's so many, y'all. You don't even know how many puppos I had to scroll back to.
You make that sound like a chore. These are wonderful puppos. And
no, I love them.
Love them.
Also, V's face in the background.
Yeah, I like to think that V just like came into the room to be like, "Hey, Camilla, you hear the news?"
Here's the meme. Here's the Morbius meme. Someone edited it to be Morbius. Stupid.
I mean, it's not surprising that Morbius took over the government.
Stupid.
Because it did sell a more billion tickets.
Stop! I hate you.
It sold a more billion tickets. It's Morbin time.
Oh my god. Yeah, so this was a fun little Easter egg. It's good to see Camilla and V just, have a little moment in this episode. And then, of course, we get the door open and the reveal that Luce is back. And these poor little traumatized kids are along with her. Mom, I'm back, and I brought some siblings. And my girlfriend. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it's a little unfortunate that like this was less of a shock after the True Colors ending. Like, oh my gosh, an isekai story actually brings the other side to the human world this time, right? So it's kind of cool that both Owl House and Amphibia are doing this. And I'm sure it's going to be very different. I'm excited to see Hunter learn more about the human world and like learn more about his identity and who he is. I'm excited also to see Gus in the human world, right? Like I know that he's obviously probably the most scared to be away from his family out of like all the kids since he's so young, but we know that he's like a human enthusiast, right? We know that he loves human stuff, and he's probably also will find some joy in being in the human realm as well. So I'm excited to see that as
Oh yeah,
well.
that's gonna be fun.
That'll be fun. And I'm excited to see, hopefully, we get a little bit of time for Luz and Amity to go on a date. I know there's a lot going on. I know that these kids have a lot of stress and a lot of problems they got to deal with, but I really would love to just see them go on a date at some point.
They could go on a movie date to see Morbius.
They go see Morbius together. So romantic.
It's the most romantic film. It's the most romantic film. They can watch him morb.
Yeah, for sure.
It's gonna be great.
Um,
Somebody just kill me, please. What is this timeline we're living in?
Oh my gosh. But anyway, yeah, I'm really excited for the season 3 sequels. I feel the season 3 movies, specials, whatever. I feel like it is a shame that so much had to get cut. There's a lot of stuff that's been in season 2 that we've talked about that we feel maybe would have done better with a little bit of fleshing out, maybe would have done better with just a little bit more time and development. But what they did with season 2 is so special and so incredible, even despite all the setbacks and everything. And with season 3, I hear what Dana's saying. I don't want to go into it with a defeatist attitude. I still think that's going to be really great. Limitation does breed creativity a lot of times, so I feel like there's going to be stuff in there that's going to surprise us and exceed our expectations, I feel. But I feel like we just got to go into it with an open mind and not necessarily like be too frustrated with the fact that we're getting a shortened season 3. But I know that you had some thoughts on that too, right, Tom?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it would be interesting to kind of just sort of reflect on the season as a whole and kind of think about what... There are a few things that at this point I know we're not going to get, but which I really would have liked to have had.
Yeah, sorry. Last thing before you continue. Sorry to cut you off. Let's just the very end of the credits, if you didn't see it yet. The bellows-scoop falls down and closes the door, and it's very ominous. That's the last thing.
We do see Morbius does show up and close the door.
Yes, he does.
Because he's polite. He's a hero. He's polite. Or he's an anti-hero, but he's polite. And he sees that door and he's like, well, this won't do. It's going to get wet. Got to close this door. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. Somebody just shut me. You really need to just be more willing to mute me when I start talking about Morbius.
But yeah, so the idea with the shortened season 3, that's where I cut you off. But you were saying something about season 3.
Yeah, so first things first. The Owl House, we were talking about this briefly in our own sort of chat. The Owl House has a lot of great one-on-one dynamics.
Right.
It's a thread of really great one-on-one dynamics that are really interesting and fun, and a lot of them come out of nowhere, and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that I needed this. Like,
right.
Who on earth was asking for a Gus and Hunter little friendship, which ended up being just wonderful.
Right.
And written so well. Like, I really got to give them credit. Considering how little screen time they actually get, they really piece together something pretty great.
They do, yeah, definitely.
For each of these characters. Obviously, Lumity is its own thing. I dedicated a whole stupid video to that. Even the ones that just kind of are there and are always there and have always been there and don't really require much more than what they are. Willow and Gus, they kind of always had a little thing. They just naturally had a chemistry that's fun to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, to me, the absolute heart of it always will be Ida and Luce, and it genuinely makes me sad that because they just needed to cover so much plot stuff, the Ida and Luce stuff kind of ended up getting sidelined, and that I don't want to call it a misstep because again, I really genuinely think that's just a manifestation of the pressures put on them in development. But it was, I will be honest, it affected my enjoyment of the season.
Yeah.
I missed it a lot. I missed that being kind of like a good, strong, central sort of pillar to the whole thing.
Yeah, I hear you.
The issue is that there's so many characters. There's so many characters.
Right.
You know, and all of them need to be fleshed out enough to work, and they do that pretty well, I think.
Yeah.
But then we get into the issue of I don't wholly believe these characters work very well as a unit.
Right, right. Like we've never really
So actually,
gotten we haven't gotten any group time with Luce and these like four Hexide kids now. Like this will be the
yeah,
first time we even see all of them together.
and it's like that's hard to do. Like the closest we've had, you know, we had the Hooties Moving Hassle episode where we got to see the three of them sort of doing their thing, and we didn't get a huge amount after that, I don't think,
Right.
of
Right.
just the three of them. I guess we got a couple of throwaway episodes in season one, and season one feels so different to season
Right.
two in a way
Right.
that kind of makes me wonder how this show will feel, if that will affect the enjoyment of the show as a whole if you watch it all in one go. It's yeah, I because I gave the example of two shows, like, and these are not fair comparisons. I mean, one of them's a fair comparison, the other is not so much a fair comparison. But like when I think of really good examples of shows that have just like really strong group dynamics, my first thought is Cowboy Bebop,
For sure. For sure.
where their entire group dynamic is handled with such finesse. It's so integral to the show. Especially when they're like a bunch of curmudgeonly assholes who don't share their emotions at all. Like they don't like the kinds of things that you would typically rely upon in terms of getting characters to feel good as a unit. They don't have in that show, and so they have to rely on other things. They have to rely on the kind of the implicit familial bickering and they're, you know, they might not be open about their feelings, but they're certainly willing to take one another to task like they
Right.
were family. Like there's interesting ways they get that group dynamic to work and how each of them fits into that group dynamic. And the thing with the Bebop crew is that they don't fit the typical thing of Lancer, healer, etc., etc. Like you know, they just don't have that. They're just a bunch of assholes on a ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other example I gave was Steven Universe. And Steven Universe really is a masterclass in how to do this. Now, you know, Steven Universe is a different show in as much as Steven Universe is about relationships, and it's about our relationships with people and the way those relationships fall apart and come back
Right.
together again. And that's what that show is about at its heart. So it's much more important, I think, to Steven Universe that they have this. But part of the my love of Steven Universe is just how much really the central cast of characters, the Crystal Gems, and outside of the Crystal Gems, you know, with like Greg and everything, they feel like they're highly coordinated as a unit of characters. Like you really know at all times exactly where each of these characters is in relation to one another.
Right.
You know,
Right.
like the Crystal Gems are a unit and they work in their own way, but like, you know, and in that sense they all fill, I don't want to say they fill a certain role, but they satisfy a certain kind of condition, for lack of a better term.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
You know, and in terms of making a team interesting to watch on screen, but also each of the Crystal Gems has a unique relationship with one another. You know, Pearl's relationship with Garnet is extremely different to Garnet's relationship with Amethyst, which is extremely different to Amethyst's relationship with Pearl, and they all get their own moments. And it's, you know, there's a great group dynamic that works together as a unit, but also works on a person to person basis. And each of their relationships with Steven is very different.
Right. Right.
You know,
Totally.
and that stuff's really, really hard to do, and I get that. Like that stuff, Steven Universe has so much time,
Especially
to
in
build that.
animation, I feel.
Yes, absolutely. Steven, like I used the term manufactured chemistry. Now, there's a reason for that, and that is that it obviously, and I'd said this to you, I'll repeat it for the chat. Obviously, in live action cinema, chemistry between characters, so much of that really, like some of it's written, a lot of it's written, but I think a lot of it really comes down to whether or not the actors themselves are capable of
Definitely.
having on-screen chemistry together. Like it's very noticeable when two actors have no chemistry. It's very, very noticeable, and it will ruin like chemistry. Like there are great examples in live action cinema where like the writing itself doesn't do much for the chemistry of the characters, and it's carried entirely by the actors.
Definitely.
And the inverse of that is that the writing tells us they should have chemistry, but because the on-screen chemistry of the actors doesn't work, we aren't sold on it. Now with animation, it's a different story. It all has to be there on the page, and it all has to be there in the animation itself. And the Owl House has a slew of great one-on-one dynamics that I love and that are fantastic. But I personally would have really liked if they worked together as a group a bit more. And I don't mean worked together as in like Like, let's do some
Let's
work.
get
Let's
some
work
stuff together.
together.
Yeah.
I don't mean that. I mean, I would like it if I could imagine them as a group more than I can, which I just
Yeah.
can't. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't describe to you. You could ask me to describe the group dynamic of the Bebop crew, right?
Yeah, and
And
also, yeah, sorry, I'll let you continue before I cut you
and
off.
you could ask me to describe the group dynamic of the Crystal Gems, and I could tell it to you very succinctly because the show does such a good job of communicating it. I don't know if I could say the same thing about these guys, and it doesn't
Yeah.
affect the show. I don't think in any way. Like, it's not necessary, and this isn't a complaint. It's just something I personally kind of would have liked to have seen, I think.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I really wish that we got a chance to like just see these characters as a group, as a unit a little bit more, especially with all of them. You know, like I said, we've seen, you know, Gus and Hunter and Amity and Willow somewhat work together in, you know, the Labyrinth Runners episode, but Luce wasn't there. And also like Hunter has a relationship with like each of these characters at this point, right? Like that's kind of just a testament to how well Hunter's character has been written so far. But also like those relationships have been developing and changing, and we haven't been able to see how some of those relationships have been changing. That we saw it a little bit with Luce in Hollow Mind, and how Hunter is like slowly, you know, starting to accept like Luce as like a friend. But we didn't get any of that between Hunter and Amity like at all after Eclipse Lake. And like I don't know how she feels about him at this point. Like, does she still hate him? Does she still not trust him? Does she now see him with Gus and Willow and is like, okay, yeah, he's fine now? Like, we never got that on screen. And that's just like a shame because I feel like that would have been something, right, that maybe would have been there before the show got shortened, but we kind of lost that at this point, which is a shame. It's just a shame because
Think about.
Yeah.
Sorry, you continue. You continue.
I was just gonna say, like we know that they've had these like off-screen moments and their friendship developing, but it's just a shame that we like haven't seen that, and so we're just supposed to kind of take it as face value instead of believing it for real. But yeah,
think about that great moment. You know, I mean, for episode 1 of Cowboy Bebop does a very, very good job in the very opening scene of conveying to us what the nature of Spike and Jet's relationship is.
Right.
You know, with Jet like desperately trying to explain the bounty, and Spike is not interested at all. He just wants to know why there's no beef in his bell peppers and beef. He's just not interested. You know, and the spat that happens out of it, you know, keys us entirely into the nature of their relationship. You know, both as professional collaborators, but also as friends. And then when Faye shows up, and you get that great scene at the end, when Spike is like, you know, she says something like, "Oh well, better luck next time we do the next bounty," or whatever, and Spike is like, you know, does that mean what I think it means?
Yeah.
Is she like taking a shower in our shower?
Right.
And Jet is just like, everything he says, he gives him the same response of, I don't know and I have no opinion.
Right, exactly.
And it's great because we're watching them like respond to the introduction of this new main character in very, very different ways.
Yeah.
That ends with Faye shooting at Spike.
Yeah.
Because he walks in on her while she's in the shower. Like, scenes like that are what we need to give us a sense of who they are as a group and how they respond to one another as a group.
Yeah, and it's just a shame we haven't gotten that with these characters.
You get tons of that with the Crystal Gems. The Crystal Gems are constantly put in situations that lay bare to us who they are as individuals and what that means, what that implies for each of them as a group.
Yeah.
You know, even things as simple as eating and sleeping, which they don't do, but Amethyst totally does.
Right.
And like, you know, it's interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's too late to give us some of that.
I don't think so either. I think we will get some of that in the special.
I think we'll get. I'd love to see some of that. The only other thing I would really like to see, and this is not even a nitpick. It's so small, but it's something I really like to see when it is done.
Yeah.
And when it's done well. And it's definitely too late for this. We're definitely not going to be getting any of this. I really wish the Boiling Isles felt more like a real setting.
Yeah.
To me. And it doesn't, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't need to. That's the thing. Right, like it doesn't need to feel like a real setting, but when shows like this, fantasy shows, sci-fi shows, cartoons like this, when they go that extra effort to contextualize a space and make it feel real, it really sucks you in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and again, I find myself coming back to Steven Universe,
Right.
where
Right.
you can map out in your mind the walk from Steven's front door to the Big Donut,
Right.
or
Yeah,
from the
totally.
Big Donut. Like I could even map in my mind how to get from the Big Donut to Onion's house, because the show tells you, it shows
Right,
you,
right.
right?
Yeah, no,
And it
totally.
has, and it's not just about establishing shots, it's about this wonderful interplay throughout the series of like showing us how physical locales relate to one another. And you've got the
Right.
whole setting of the boardwalk, where you've got the fish stew pizza, and you've got
Yeah,
uh,
and I feel
uh
like we got like
the chippy.
little hints of that with the Boiling Isles, like oh this like other town that's on the knee, or like oh this town that's
Not- it's not
Latissa or
micro
whatever.
enough.
Yeah, but
It's not
yeah,
that's macro detail. What we need is micro detail, right?
right, right,
There's a like, if you were to ever go back and rewatch the first episode of Cowboy Bebop, for example, they map the ship out for you, or they start to anyway. We get more detail with the ship as we go along,
right,
particularly in the most surprising of episodes. But in the first episode, it's not just like, you know, you've got Spike and Jet doing different things in that opening like sequence of shots after the credits, but then they contextualize their physical relationship to one another with the hallway that connects the
right,
kitchen
right.
to the living room. That's what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like those little details that give us a sense of what this space is physically. Spirited Away does this. It's a masterclass in this. If you
yeah.
ever rewatch Spirited Away, pay attention to how Hayao Miyazaki actually, in the opening scenes of that film, how Hayao Miyazaki actually physically maps out the bathhouse for you in
Yeah.
Chihiro's journey, her escalation from bottom to top. And that's it's too late for that now.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Which is a shame, and it doesn't matter. Like at the end of the day, I don't think that's something that necessarily Dana Terrace particularly prioritizes as a writer. And again,
Yeah.
I don't think it matters too much for a show like this.
Yeah.
Steven Universe is again different in as much as the town is a character, and the people
Right.
in that town are a character.
Right.
You know, and they
And it would
matter.
have been cool to see that with this, but it's
But it just would have been cool to. I like it when spaces feel real.
yeah.
I like it when I like being able to think to myself, like, actually, I know how to get to the Big Donut from Steven's house.
Right. No,
Like,
totally. I hear what you're saying.
I love that. That's great. You know,
So
it's yeah.
So we've been talking about this for over 3 hours now at this point. I feel like we have to wrap up on Owl House. We have to wrap up in general. We didn't talk about Amphibia, and I know that you haven't had a chance to talk about Hardest Thing really yet at all. My question for you is, do we want to save that for another day?
I don't even know if I have a ton that I need to say about it. I feel like
Do you want to just get through it?
I presume that you and Toon had a. Did you guys talk about it?
We talked about it, but we only really got kind of halfway through the actual plot. And then we talked a little bit about the end. We talked about like our feelings about like the show's decision to separate them. But that was really all that we talked about.
I first want to say the show makes a reference to Space Dandy. Like the show makes a lot of anime references. A Space Dandy reference was not one I was expecting. Which is that Space Dandy ends with Dandy effectively dying and then meeting God, and God giving him the option to be a new God.
Yeah.
To take his place. It's like, yeah, I'm bored of this shit. Do you want to be God now? And spoilers for the ending of Space Dandy, by the way. It's not really a show you can spoil. Dandy dies like multiple times in the show, and it never matters. Space Dandy is not a show that can be spoiled.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how it ends. God is like, do you want to be the new God? I don't want to be God anymore. And Dandy's like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah. I feel like there's stuff that I want to say about the Amphibia finale that I would love to talk to you about, Tom. So I kind of want to save this for another day, just so that we can actually have a proper discussion about it. Are you okay with that?
That's totally cool. I don't mind that at all.
Okay. So let's do that, since it also seems like, yeah, it's getting late for a lot of people. It's getting late for Robin, and everyone's got to get about their day. I got to get about my day too. So why don't we go ahead and save Amphibia for another day? You guys can see the background I made for it, though. Doesn't it look so nice?
Can I see the background? Where is it? Am I looking at it? I'm not looking at it.
I'm looking. Hold on. I chose the wrong screen. There we go.
I have to wait for the video to catch up.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll save Amphibia for another day because there's still some stuff that I want to talk about. We didn't talk about the time skip at all really either, and there's some neat stuff that made me emotional in the time skip that I would just like to talk about why I liked it, just stuff like that. So I kind of want to save Amphibia for another day if you're good with that.
It's a shame that my stupid looping GIF didn't fit the dimensions.
I know, it was so cute. So here's what I'm thinking, y'all. So let's go ahead and wrap this up for today. Thank you all so much for talking about Owl House with us. This was so fun. What an awesome season finale. Again, just kudos to the crew for doing such a stellar job on the animation, on the writing, on the music. Everything looked amazing. It was really, really stellar work from the entire crew. Really, really just big credit to them for doing such an incredible job. Especially too, like, I know a lot of people are just like, I just need season 3 already. I just need the hiatus to be over already. But dude, those animators, those writers, the crew, they all need a break, a well-deserved break. So I'm very glad that they're going to get this time to get some rest in between seasons. Because they've earned it. They've definitely earned it. So I'm going to wait patiently whenever season 3 is going to come. I'm not in any rush to see it anytime soon. I'll let the crew, do their work, and it's going to be great when it happens. I'm going to say most likely next week. I don't want to say definitively for sure because I am terrible at planning stuff ahead of time. But let's just say for now that Sunday next week we'll do another discussion stream. We'll finish talking about any remaining Owl House thoughts that we might have. If you guys have any theories or anything that you guys want to bring to that discussion, I would love to hear them then as well. And then we'll get into the Amphibia finale properly. I know that we've been kind of pushing back talking about the Amphibia finale for a while now, but there's definitely stuff that I want to talk about that I would love to get into with everyone. So we'll save that for next week. And I know that Tom, we briefly talked a little bit about future streams that we wanted to do as well. And so I did want to just assure everyone that even though these shows have ended, and that we might not be doing weekly discussion streams for new episodes that are coming out, at least for now anymore. We still have some more streams and some more discussions that we have planned for the future. Tom and I are currently watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's Tom's first time watching the show, which is really, really exciting and really fun for me to get to show one of my favorite shows of all time to one of my best friends of all time. So that's really lovely. And so we definitely want to do some Buffy discussion streams just because we have both been enjoying the show, or at least I hope you've been enjoying the show, Tom.
I feel like the amount I've been gushing about it should be...
Yeah, it makes me so happy that you love it. It just really, it makes me so happy that you're enjoying it. Because I love the show so much, and I love you so much, and you're also bringing me new insight that I had never considered with the show before, and that's also really fun. So we really are not going to be done with discussion streams even when we finish talking about Owl House and Amphibia. We also, I just remembered that we did Arcane discussion streams at one point, and we
just totally forgot.
We just never finished season 1. I think we had 4 episodes of season 1 to get to yet, and so we're gonna have to get back to that before season 2 comes out at some point, because I really do want to finish talking about Arcane too. And then we also we both love Steven Universe to death. Tom just finished rewatching Steven Universe, and he's kind of in Steven brain rot mode right now, and so we would love to talk about Steven too, because that's one of my favorite shows as well. And I know that if you guys are fans of Amphibia and Owl House, I have to assume you guys like Steven Universe as well. Or if you don't, what are you doing? What are you even doing with your life? Go watch Steven. It's amazing.
It's a valid question to ask.
So just because Owl House and Amphibia weekly discussion streams are coming to an end does not mean that it's going to be an end of us hanging out and talking about shows, because this is just fun for us. This is just a time for us to take some time out of the weekend and hang out and chat about our favorite shows, and it's just a good time, and so we don't want that to end.
Yeah.
So, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up for today. Oh, what about She-Ra? She-Ra in the future, Morgan.
She-Ra's a bloody good show.
I know it's a great show. It's one of those shows where I know if I start watching it, I'm going to get sucked in. I'm going to get fixated on it. So I need the time and space to be okay, I'm ready to have this take over my life, and so I need to be in that space first. So it will happen in the future, but just not for now. It's also 5 seasons, so I need time to mentally prepare for it to take over my life for 5 seasons.
I like that it has 5 seasons. It's good to kind of just like jump in.
Yeah,
And have a shit ton of material to chew through.
For sure. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, wonderful rest of your weekend. If you guys are, off of school, off of work tomorrow, I hope you have a wonderful Memorial Day and day off tomorrow. So we'll be back most likely next week on Sunday. I will confirm with you guys in the Discord and on Twitter once I know that for sure. But most likely next Sunday, we'll finish talking about Amphibia and any other straggling Owl House thoughts that we have. And then more discussions will come in the future. Final reminder that the Wolfwalkers video is currently out for supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi. Thank you so much, Shia, as well, for dropping those links earlier. Really, really appreciate that. Literally, even if you just pay $1 on Ko-fi, you can watch the video. Pay as little as you want. And you can check it out. It's going to be up there for a week, and then it'll be up for the public on my YouTube channel by next Saturday. So, please check that out once it drops. If you can't donate $1, I totally understand. No pressure, no ill feelings whatsoever. But if you do watch that video once it's out on YouTube for the public, I know that you hear YouTubers and you hear creators say these words a lot, like the video, share, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. But it really does help so much when it comes to how YouTube takes those things into account in the algorithm. The more that people like the video and comment on the video, the more likely YouTube thinks that this is a good video and is more likely to show it to other people as well. So it really does help us out when you guys like and engage with the video. So please do that once the video comes out. For the public on Saturday. I would really appreciate it. Tom would really appreciate it. He did such a stellar, incredible job on the editing. You guys can see a little preview of the video on my Twitter. I posted a little clip from the intro, and you guys can just see how freaking good the editing is and how awesome it looks and sounds, thanks to Tom's masterful work. So thank you again, Tom, for all your help on that video. And please check it out. Either just $1 on Ko-fi, $2 on Patreon, or wait until next Saturday when it's out on YouTube. And thank you so much, again, Tom and everyone for making that video possible.
Who the fuck is Tom?
Just some dork-ass loser that I know. Ugh. This nerd.
Sounds like a prick.
No, he's my bestie, and I love him. All right, everyone. Have a good rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Get vaccinated if you're able to. Wear a mask if you're going out. Take care of yourselves and each other. And we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.